Welcome to Commentary Time. Here at Permanently Geek, we like to do a commentary every couple of weeks or every week or every other day or, I don't know, once a day. I don't know. We just do commentaries whenever we feel like it, which is often. So, today's commentary is going to be for George Lucas's beloved classic, Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace.
Truly one of the greatest pieces of cinema.
One of, hands down, next to Citizen Kane, maybe The Wizard of Oz.
And everyone's favorite Star Wars movie, really.
And everyone,
being honest.
it features,
tour de force.
it's a tour de force.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
I see what you did there.
It has our favorite character, the lovable and adorable and completely memorable. I'd say you can't forget him. Jar Jar is in this one.
And as seen in Jingle All the Way, Jake Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd, who is, I think, in jail right now. So
the last picture I saw of him, he looked like he should be.
the last picture I saw of him was literally a mugshot. So
he had a
sorry,
really
Jake Lloyd.
easy looking mustache.
Oh
going
yeah,
last
he
time
had
I saw
like a pube stash going.
him. Yeah.
Sorry, Jake Lloyd. You know, it's not your fault that you were just miscast. But anyway, we'll get into that. So at Commentary Time, what we do is we basically watch a movie, we make fun of it, talk about it, educate you, as it were. I am your host. My name is Randy, and sitting right next to me is.
I'm Alex, and it smells like gravy in here a little bit.
Why is that?
I don't know.
He's not wrong, folks.
We did make buffalo wings yesterday, so it may be the lingering. It was like pepper spray in here. We opened up the door, like we put them in the oven, and we opened it up, and it just like got bomb of like pepper spray in our face.
If you'd like to have the same experience we have while watching the movie, put some gravy on the stove, and it'll be like you're in the room with us.
It's like it will be just like that.
Or just a small smear on your upper lip.
And then you can look
Cube
like Jake
stash
Lloyd. And I'm Michael McFarland.
Michael McFarland sitting next to me, Alex Herman, and me, Randy. We have the film queued up to the 20th Century Fox logo.
Or as I like to call it, planned obsolescence, the logo.
What is? You might be watching the digital version where Disney has the logo now, and that's weird. But you know what? Good for them. So we're gonna press play in just a moment. And if you want to press play at home on whatever movie you're watching, go right ahead. That's not going to sync up. It's not going to sync up. And when it does, you're going to laugh your ass off. It's going to be the funniest fucking thing that's ever happened to you.
Try it with Tron. I hear that's a good one for things.
Try to sing up episode 1 with Tron. We are going to press play in 3, 2, 1. We are pressing play. Play has been pressed. Now the lights in the background are moving. 20th Century Fox is up. It's dimming down. It's going to have the Lucasfilm. There's the Lucasfilm. The Lucasfilm we know and love.
It's changing color. There it is. Oh, it's down to being just yellow and gold. Now it's gone away. All right.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, you remembered films that were good. This one will disappoint you. Profusely. I still remember the very first time I saw this, midnight screening. I was like the big Star Wars fan among my friends, and we stood up as soon as the credits rolled, and everybody like turned and looked at me, and they were like, "What'd you think?" Because I think they all thought like that was a piece of shit, right? But I want to make sure Randy thinks it was a piece of shit before I admit that this was a piece of shit. And so they looked at me, and I was like, "That was the worst one." And they were like, "Oh, thank God!" They all just like immediately were like, "Okay, yeah, no, that was really horrible."
So for everyone who tuned into a movie called Star Wars, here we have trade negotiations, because those go hand in hand.
Yes. While the Congress of the Republic endlessly debates this alarming change of events, the Supreme... It's like Fox News is more exciting than this.
I mean, they're both.
They've
works
secretly
of fiction,
dispatched
You know,
two
movie's
Jedi.
gonna be good when it starts with a USA Today blurb.
The Phantom Menace.
While I love the crawl, The graphic designer in me really hates the justified text with the huge rivers of black that run through it.
I also hate the 4 periods at the end instead
Oh, I
of
never
3. That
noticed that.
drives me nuts.
Oh, you just ruined the movie for him.
That is an improper ellipsis, folks.
Yes. Maybe there's a reason in it. I don't know, but it's always drive me nuts.
Grammar's a little different in other galaxies.
No, we don't have.
This is ancient English because it was a long time ago. So you know.
Let's see here. Oh my god, it's already terrible. I remember that. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like, what's happening? This isn't Star Wars. It kind of looks like Star. Wow, there are like 1 billion subtitle tracks. Just trying to pull
Four
up.
different kinds of Swedish you can watch this in.
Well, there's text commentaries. We can literally have it with. There, that'll be good. I actually recently, this movie came out in 3D. They did a 3D reconversion of it a few years back. And my wife and I sat down to watch it, and like we were kind of like, I wasn't too excited to see this movie again in the theater in 3D, but like I was like, whatever. And we watched up to literally this scene, and we left because the 3D was so terrible
Really?
that you couldn't tell. You couldn't even tell it was in 3D, and I was like, this is bullshit. This movie looks horrible in 3D. So we walked out and we got our money back, although we had to fight to get our money back.
So,
Something else.
at what point
elusive.
did George Lucas think that rat tails were a good look for the Jedi in training?
This is the 90s.
At what point did humanity think rat tails were a good look?
The 90s.
Okay, all right.
I mean, you had to think they probably started shooting this around like maybe 97 or so. So that's right at the end of the rat tail phase. There's actually a lot of like must-see TV or like TGIF like style jokes in this. Like, well, excuse me. I think Jar Jar says that at some point.
Jar Jar was
Open
actually
mouth,
George Lucas
insert foot.
trying to create his own Steve Urkel.
Well, yeah, and like the Full House, like the Olsen twins. Sorry if I spoiled that the Olsen the kid in the Full House is a twin. I don't know that you guys knew that. Spoilers, sorry.
And ends up doing a lot of cocaine at some point in life.
Yeah. Here we are, reminded of what used to be by seeing a C-3PO style robot.
Or what will be, since
What
we're
will
in-
be? Well, we can get into like string theory about like how this was made after the fact, and yet it's set before, but it seems very aware of what came. That's
Yeah.
some time travel for you right there.
So for me, and I'm Randy, I'm sure you're familiar with this. I'm actually a big fan of for people watching Star Wars movies for the first time, watching in the 4, 5, 2, 3, 6 order, which you will notice Episode 1 is not included in that order.
Yeah, you just skip it.
Yep, because the thing about that whole structure of watching the films is that it makes the prequels just a one long flashback. So after the reveal at the end of Empire Strikes Back, and I won't tell you what it is in case this is your first time watching Star Wars, after that it goes back and tells that whole story, and let's be honest, this movie is almost entirely inconsequential to that story.
Yeah, it is. I also like the Episode 1, then Episode 4, then Episode 2, then Episode 5, then Episode 3, and Episode 6.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting idea because you get to see the world in its eloquence and then the world in its sort of shambles.
All right.
And you constantly get this juxtaposition. So like right as Episode 2 reveals like some aspects about the characters, Episode 5 then reveals the consequences of those. And it's an interesting way to watch it. I do like that one too. The
Is that
4 or 5.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's like the Uberman order or something like that.
If you know the name of the order, post it in the comments.
So I've never actually seen even all of the original Star Wars.
That's good.
So
Excellent.
So is this like not
These are
even
Jedi
matter?
Knights.
Like what is? No, I mean, I know that.
Are you familiar with what a Jedi Knight is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Have you heard
like
of
I've
the Force?
existed in the culture of the world in the past 30 years.
Alex was frozen cryogenically for approximately 30 years and has woken up. And we are showing him Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace. This is
That's why I smelled
first
gravy. I was wrapped like a baked potato.
You're just gonna randomly throw up water in a little bit because that's always what they do when they come out of cryo. So they're always like, blah, and just like tons of water comes out of there.
Jeez.
I do like.
Spoilers.
I always liked this this little bit here when he does melt the door with the lightsaber because it was kind of the first time you saw something different. Like the lightsaber being used in a different way. The fast running though is really stupid because it is never used again. Pretty much outside of this scene, there's literally scenes in this movie where they will be running from people, and you're like, why aren't they fast running right now? I don't understand why they're not fast running. And why are all these characters? Why do they have racist like accents? Like what the hell?
Were there racist accents in the like original trilogy?
I'm sure there are. I feel like there are, and we just kind of, nostalgia sort of maybe faded that. I know a few friends who actually really, really like the prequels, particularly like friends with kids who've shown like their kids, because it is a good intro to the universe for children.
And in that way, you can kind of say that what George Lucas was trying to do, he succeeded in.
Yeah.
In that, on some level at least.
Or you could say this is George Lucas's Iraq War.
Or alimony payment.
You're just like, that really didn't need to happen. Nope, didn't. There we go. Queen Amidala looking redonk.
I like the fact that George Lucas was like, all right, what did everyone remember about the female lead in the first movies I made? That ridiculous hairdo. Excellent. We need more ridiculous hairdos. All right, let's see what you can come up with. Like, when I first saw that, I didn't even realize that the stuff on the outside of the headdress was supposed to be her hair. It just looked like It
looks like something she put on.
Yeah, yeah.
This is probably the last one, as we cut to a scene with total visual effects. This is probably one of the last ones that actually uses a lot of sets. I've long actually argued that this film actually feels slightly more Star Warsian than the 2 and 3.
Oh, really?
If only because it feels a little more organic. It's not a very good story, but I think it does have some beats and some moments. I think just trimming Jar Jar down a little bit probably would have made for a better movie. And scenes like this where characters are just sitting and talking. I mean, we're sitting and talking right now, but we're doing a commentary. This is supposed to be an action film for babies.
For babies.
which really,
Rugrats Die Hard.
We know that 8-year-olds love trade negotiations. Like when they're playing in the backyard, like, what are you? I'm the trade negotiator. Well, I'm the ambassador.
If anybody has never listened to or watched the Plinkett reviews of the Star Wars films, he makes oftentimes will point out how like this movie, it's clearly designed for children in its execution, but then it's about trade negotiations. It's like the least children-like story. It's like bringing a kid to a political debate and telling him it's for them, and you're like, no, it isn't. Overuse of droids in this is they're funny in the small. I had an acquaintance. I'm not gonna call him a friend because he wasn't. And he was one of those people. He's like a hardcore fanboy about this movie. He's probably going to listen to this commentary. He's going to know that I'm talking about him. I don't care.
You wouldn't
care.
call me his friend. Sure.
He unfriended me on Facebook. It's okay.
Oh, really? It already happened? Okay.
Yeah, he unfriended me on Facebook. He's I don't want to get into it. He's kind of a dick. Anyway,
he's a ventriloquist in Quebec.
He is like one of those hardcore fanboys who was like, George Lucas can do no wrong, and every line you hate in this movie, like how rude and all that stuff, he would say those lines like all the time because he wanted it to become a cultural thing, and so he would like. I worked with him, and I'd be like, can you do this? And he would be like, Roger, Roger. And I'd be like, oh my God, I want to punch you in the face. I just want to punch you in the face. He would always say Misa, just like Jar Jar here, and all kinds of stuff. It was just one of those things. Enough about that. Star Wars! They're doing Star Wars things. And Star Wars things are done. Back to trade negotiations.
I remember before this movie came out, seeing something in like Newsweek or Time Magazine about how the movie was going to feature this revolutionary, like full CG character, and that it was this huge.
Excuse me.
You stole that one from Wayne's World.
90s film.
Yep. And then it came out and it's like, oh, but the full CG character is awful. Animation is impressive. The character, though, is terrible.
There's like footage of George Lucas in the documentaries, like on this Blu-ray, where he's like, you know, Jar Jar is the key to all of this. If Jar Jar doesn't work, the movie doesn't work. And I'm just, you can literally see in the video, like this, everybody around there is like, they have this look on their face where, like, if you could read their thoughts, it would say, this isn't working. It doesn't work. Who wants to say it? No one wants to tell him it isn't working. I feel bad because, I mean, he wanted it to work. It just didn't.
Are those ears?
You know, because I love George Lucas.
I'm pretty sure those are like big old basset hound ears that he's got going.
George Lucas is probably still one of my biggest role models. I mean, despite all the things that, you know, sort of have happened with these prequel films, he's an innovator. He's pushed visual effect envelope well beyond, you know, anybody else, and he pioneered a lot of really awesome things, including helping pioneer Pixar.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I you know what? I'll give him episodes 1 through 3 if it means he got to change the landscape of cinema.
That's fair. Absolutely fair.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting, given our discussions of Jar Jar, that on this couch on which we sit, there is a Jar Jar blanket.
Yep, there is. So that whenever somebody comes over and they are cold, I can go, "You so cold?" And then give them the Jar Jar blanket. I paid $10 for it at a Comic-Con. It was worth every penny.
Now, is this an officially licensed blanket? Or
this isn't officially, they sold these. I remember there was a day shortly before the film came out, maybe about 2 weeks before, like there was a big merchandise pull where like everything went out in the stores, you know, all the toys, all the shirts. I remember going to like Kmart after school, like immediately driving down to Kmart and like buying like 3 or 4 t-shirts, because like at the time it was hard to get Star Wars shirts. They just didn't exist. So like it was cool to be able to finally buy a Star Wars shirt again. And you know, I bought shirts, I bought toys. I still have a lot of the toys from this movie. And I do remember picking up a blanket. I think they were like $15 or $30 and wanting to buy one. And I didn't, and up until just like last year when I bought this blanket. I'm glad I own the Jar Jar blanket. People may give me shit over it, but
I like how heavy it weighed on you, that you remembered there was this time I went to Kmart and I didn't get that Jar Jar blanket.
I was a huge Star Wars fan, and so like I was like, this was like the event of my lifetime when this movie came out. Like there was no movie event in my life that matched this. And so like I bought as many toys as I could buy. I was so excited about this movie. It looked incredible from the trailers and stuff. I'm like, holy crap, this is visual effects I've never seen. It looks incredible. And you know, we weren't even 5 minutes into it before I was like, oh my God, this is stilted. It feels like somebody who didn't really want to make it made it. I mean, look at the actors here. They even look bored.
Oh yeah.
Like look at Ewan McGregor. He was like, I was in Trainspotting like 5 years ago. I would do an accent, but I can't do his accent.
Oh yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't even attempt it.
The planet core.
So, the Gungan race really fascinates me because they live underwater and have built these elaborate structures, and they obviously breathe air above. Like they're breathing air right now. So why are they an underwater society? It seems so incredibly inconvenient.
I think it's meant to be rooted in a kind of racism, actually. No, I mean, legitimately, like, they don't get along with everyone else, and so they've literally built this entire world where they can live away from all these people. So I do think it is kind of built on like a weird sort of like specious or racist kind of thing. Like they're really hostile towards these people.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Like
interesting. I never looked at it that way.
It's like Aqua Ghetto.
Aqua Ghetto.
Maybe they need the people of Naboo.
God, can we make a blaxploitation version of this and call it Aqua Ghetto?
This actually, that thing he just did there where he shook his mouth was one of the first times where that was really where I was like, what is this? Why did he just do that? He did that so kids could go, what Misa saying? It's really beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's really kind of, there's a lot of like the production design, a lot of the ideas in this movie are really great. It's just the whole movie as a whole is he tries to tell a bigger story than Star Wars normally tells. I mean, if you think about Empire Strikes Back, it's literally a movie where Luke goes to train and Han and Leia and everybody else basically runs from the Empire. That is the plot of the movie. There's nothing else really going on. I mean, there's a lot going on, but it's all about the characters. This movie, it's a little less about the characters and a lot more about everything else in the world. Which, if you've ever read any of like Lucas's original Star Wars, like his very first Star Wars script or his book, because he wrote a paperback Star Wars book that came out actually before the film. It reads a lot like this. He was really fascinated actually in the political world of Star Wars and what goes on in this narrative.
And that's why I've always liked Star Trek better.
Yeah,
is because it's like the Federation. There's these different races and they're fighting and like it's like this one long story arc and the whole thing. And it's just like I don't know. You can get that in some number of movies that's less than 10.
Yeah,
Now,
I think nowadays with Disney owning it, we're gonna get a Star Wars film every year, and I think it will develop into sort of a Star Trekky, and like you're gonna get a better scope of the world than you've ever gotten before. But I'm kind of in the same boat. I used to be hardcore Star Wars, and I'm actually a little more Star Trek than Star Wars nowadays. Star Wars is the series I like to watch. Star Trek is a series I would love to like work on. I would love to make a Star Trek movie or something like that.
It's worth noting that the giant thing that just ate the big gooba fish really looks a lot like the kaiju from Pacific Rim.
It also reminds me of the Godzilla, like the 90s Godzilla.
Oh yeah. When did that come out in relation to this? The
90s Godzilla was maybe 98.
Okay.
I think so, like a year before.
Okay.
So the fish bite their spaceship?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the one giant fish bit the spaceship, and then the Godzilla-looking thing ate the fish, and not the spaceship.
Weirdly enough, the 98 Godzilla is a movie I've grown to like a lot more than I used to.
Really?
Yeah, if you just sort of accept it as a stupid monster movie, it's fun.
Okay.
It's bad, but it's fun.
I grew up watching the Toho Studios Godzilla movies and loved those, and so the 98 Godzilla film just seemed like sacrilege to me when it came out. So maybe I need to rewatch it and sort of reassess without the emotional connection to the original Godzilla movies.
I was so surprised, we're getting off topic, but whatever. I was so surprised. We're watching the underwater scene. They just go around underwater and sequest it up because this movie is basically the 90s all regurgitated as a Star Wars film. But even that ship kind of looks like the sequest ship. But yeah, I remember, I saw the new Godzilla, and I watched the 98 Godzilla shortly before watching the new Godzilla, and I liked the 98 one more.
Really?
I thought the new one had really great visuals, and production design was way better. It was more serious tone. I thought it was a much better movie, but I ultimately found the sort of campy, ridiculous goofiness of the other Godzilla to be more enjoyable. We'll have to do a commentary on that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's, I think it's available on Netflix as of now.
I own it on Blu-ray.
Oh, excellent. Well, that makes that easy.
It is also on Netflix. Ducks.
So I do have to admit, I still remember at least a couple of verses
lovely.
of the Weird Al song about this film, which was the parody of American Pie. And so I'm just mentally replaying it in my mind. It's like, oh, so this was we took a bongo from the scene and went to Thebe to see the queen.
I think this is this might be Keira Knightley here.
Yeah.
Which one?
Queen Amidala is played by both Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley, depending on.
I thought you were talking about one of the like bug-eyed no-lip things.
That's Keira Knightley and Sylvester Stallone. I'm surprised he didn't do that because this is very 90s. I actually don't think I've watched this on Blu-ray yet. I mean, I think I like watched it, but like didn't really watch it. It was one of those where I was just sort of looking at my phone or something, and
as one does when they watch.
Just one does when they watch
episode 1.
It's a nice transfer.
No, I mean it looks beautiful.
I will say that on the whole, I think Jar Jar, as a motion capture character, not as a character, but as just a piece of motion capture, it does work. Mm-hmm. You do kind of believe he exists. I'm sure we're probably going to get a ton of like hate comments right there. Be like, no, he doesn't exist. But no, I mean, if you're kind of like, you sort of do you forget that he's a character so much that you just start to hate him as like an actual character.
No, that's you know what?
You
it
just
really
don't
does,
like it.
It's like, I respect his technology.
Like,
it really does say something though that Jar Jar was able to get under people's skin so much.
Yeah.
So in that, he absolutely succeeded in making a believable character.
Yeah.
Because you can't hate something that you're not at least somewhat convinced by.
Yeah.
Like if you were just completely unbelievable, unrealistic, all of that, then be like, okay, well that was just poorly done. Whereas it's actual hatred.
yeah. It's legit hatred. I mean, like, sometimes he doesn't work, but I like scenes like here, like, you kind of believe that he's there. He looks a little like, he's got that kind of 90s early CG look to him a little bit, a little unpolished. I saw a filmmaker once who said not as many brush strokes as, as it could have used.
Not as bad as the Rock as the Scorpion King in the first CG appearance.
We mentioned that in another commentary because
I saw that in theaters.
It's the worst.
Indelible mark.
I rode my bicycle.
In your head permanently fused to hate.
I rode my bicycle to the movie theater and paid my own money to see that movie. And
then
when
the
that
fucking
came
Rock
on
while he's like,
screen, I was like, oh my god,
that looks terrible. The only thing about that movie I genuinely like is the whole backstory about the bracelet. When he takes the bracelet off and he's got a tattoo underneath. I thought that was kind of clever way of, taking just a set piece from or a costume piece rather from the last movie and turning it into a narrative device, which I thought was cool. I do like, I really actually, I'm sad that we don't have sound so we can't hear this film in particular. I don't know what it is. I think it was, the sound designer was really in love with these lightsabers, and they sound freaking awesome in this movie. Like the bass on them, the way they sound when they cut into things, like the whole room shakes. It's just a phenomenal sound that they made for these things. I really love it.
I think a lot of times I forget how tall Jar Jar is supposed to be. Like he's a good 7 feet tall, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because he kind of towers over almost everybody. Except for Liam Neeson.
Nobody's taller than Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson, who's arguably the best character in this whole film. Which is kind of weird because he's not in any of the other Star Wars movies. It's just this one. And you don't even really know who he is. Which is kind of cool because he's the first character that you don't know anything about him, but you kind of like him. There's no character development to him whatsoever.
Right.
I'm sure there are fans who'd be like, oh, he's this and that. But, they read the books. They read Wikipedia. They, just off the movie, nothing else. He's trying to bring some gravity to his role and to his character. I hate this. I always hated, that R2 looks at the camera. Like, he literally turns and is like, Hey, what's up? I'm R2-D2. Remember me from the other films? This is supposed to be a
there,
prequel.
He's doing it again.
He does it like 3 times.
Poor direction. Just gotta tell him, don't look at the camera.
Don't look at the camera.
Don't look at the camera.
You're like breaking the fourth wall. We're like 20 minutes into this thing.
So which one is Liam Neeson? Whatever that guy's name was.
The guy from Taken. Liam Neeson is Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon
That
Jinn.
guy?
Yeah,
Yes,
the
the one with the long
Amish-looking
hair.
guy.
The one who doesn't have the rat
I was
tail.
thinking Nathan Lane. All right. I was like, isn't that the guy from?
We have
like,
to put up a picture of Nathan Lane.
like Timon and Pumbaa or something like that. Like,
Wasn't Nathan Lane like what was he in? Was he in the New Producers?
Yeah.
Like that.
I was like,
He
I
did
don't know.
produces on
I
Broadway.
didn't see, there's like maybe he's just such a good actor
God,
that I
I
would realize.
I wish Nathan Lane were in this.
He disappears
wrong
into the
person
role.
completely.
Nathan Lane as Boss Knox.
Nathan Lane is going to play Darth Maul. Good to see him here. Snarls, that's what the text just said on there. My lord, it's impossible to locate the ship. Like, it's weird because these things just sort of look like, I don't even know. Like, I want to say they look like vaginas, but they don't look like vaginas.
yeah.
But, like, the way they talk is just so weird.
I was going to say, I'm not going to cast aspersions on any vaginas you've encountered, but if that's
just
what
the
they look
weird
like,
movement.
Like, is that why you dropped out of medical school?
I'm thinking like if a vagina could talk, it would have the lip movement of this.
I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find some videos.
There are folks out there in internet land. Google that if you wanna, for some fun. You can send us links.
I think I just had an idea for a different show. Like sock puppet vagina monologue. You gotta wash that thing first.
If these vaginas could talk.
Thank you, R2-D2. Padme is also played by Natalie Portman, and then that's Keira Knightley. That's a good idea.
No, it was clever of the whole body double thing and the fact that if you're looking carefully, you can be like, wait a second, that's Natalie Portman wearing the other outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were watching, you'd be like, oh, that anonymous servant girl or attendant.
In the year 1999, the year of our Lord, 1999, I was huge into Natalie Portman.
Mm-hmm.
I remember bringing a group of people to go see this shit film that she was in. Oh God, what's it called? I gotta look it up. It's like Where the Heart Is or something like that. And it was like unwatchable. But I brought everybody to it because she was in it, and I was like, "Oh, she's adorable." I even bought a poster for this movie because she was on the poster, and she was turned around so her butt was facing the. Because that's what you do when you're 18 years old. Yeah, I was 18 back when this film came out. Yeah, Where the Heart Is, the year 2000.
Good memory on that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's
On the movie poster, actually, Judd wasn't there. I think it was just Natalie Portman, and I was like, "Look at her! She looks so cute." I'll put the poster up on the YouTube so you can see it. The YouTube. But it has a 6.8 out of 10. Are you kidding? It's about a girl who lives in a Walmart.
Is it? Are you making that up, or
No!
is that actually the plot?
She
of the
lives in
movie?
a Walmart and has like a baby there. Her name is
to be
like
fair, I'm sure
Novalee
that there
Nation.
have been a lot of babies had at Walmart.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure the Brimfield Walmart has seen more than a
The
couple.
plot
of
is a pregnant 17-year-old rebuilds her life after being abandoned by her boyfriend at a Walmart in Sequoia, Oklahoma.
It's like
Based
someone
on a
read
true
an Onion
story.
article and like, let's make a movie out of this.
I think it might have actually been based on something. Let me. I'm making way off topic, but who cares? It's funny as hell.
The critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is poor script and messy
Yeah.
plot undermines the decent cast.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman's character is named Novalee Nation.
Yep. Yeah, it was written by. It was based on a novel first. So here we are back on Tatooine.
Moisture Farms.
Which looks pretty good. I like the guy in the background with the helmet on, like the very sort of 50s alien, looks like Mars Attacks or something. I hate Jar Jar's walk cycle. It's really weird. It's like this sort of Look at it. It's like a strut.
Look,
He's got the pimp walk going on right there. That's a little crip walk he's got going.
We just have to randomly throw this big damn thing in the background. Which, like, you know, that's like having an elephant walk behind you. If you're just like you're going to be like, I'm going to stand a few feet away from that. I'm not going to be like right on top of it. Oh, here comes Watto, yet another stereotyped racist character.
Oh, yeah. This one's one of the worst in the movie.
This is probably the worst. Yeah, I would say this is probably the worst.
Speaking basic.
Boy, get in here now. I'm really good at doing his accent. What took you so long? He was cleaning the fan switches, which if you really think about that line, it makes no sense. Like, what was he cleaning? What was the, why does the fan... Just the fan switches?
The light switches.
There's other switches probably, right? Oh, Jar Jar's got a long tongue and acts like one of the kids from Full House. That's exactly what I would ask Natalie Portman. Are you an angel?
Are you an angel who had a baby in a Walmart?
Oh, I should watch that one. We should do a commentary on that piece of shit.
So, if you know the rest of this story, you know those two eventually they're gonna bang, and at this age difference, that's a little bit creepy.
That's so uncomfortable. I mean, it's just like Luke kissing Leia, like.
Right.
But it's a whole movie. It's like if Luke and Leia just made out for the entire first movie. And you're like, oh god, no! They're like brother and sister. What the hell? Like it's a weird sort of like backwards pedophilia that's going on here. Like it's a really strange sort of. I'm a person and my name is Anakin.
You want to sleep with me?
We're gonna have sex in a few more years. Oh, Jar Jar, you're so silly. I've actually watched a fan edit of this that made Jar Jar cool.
Oh, really?
Simply by altering his dialogue so it's unintelligible.
Okay.
And then adding subtitles for him. The subtitles become really funny. Because they're able to get him to do things that, you know, he's able to say things he doesn't say in the movie. And it's done in a way that like really, really worked. They do that for a couple different characters. Some of the more racist characters.
I was gonna say like Watto, for example.
I imagine the reason why this character exists the way he is probably to do this wings. I imagine George Lucas as a visual artist was like, can we do wings like this? Because it seems like they're really accentuating them here, like letting you see multiple angles of how the wings flap like throughout the scene.
Even his vest is moving a little bit at the top with the wings,
which is distracting in this shot. It's like he's getting fucked from behind.
There's some
like
creature
parasite
that's just banging him from behind.
Did you notice in that scene there the pod from 2001 was in the background?
Oh,
in the
really?
jump heap. Yeah.
Huh.
There's a fun little cameo things. I mean, I liked the little ET cameo and stuff like that.
Oh,
Though
yeah,
I
that's in the Senate that happens, right?
I love the SNL sketch. If you look up the SNL sketch on deleted scenes from this movie, it's very funny. Where they have just like random other characters that shouldn't be there at all. Like Alf is there and stuff. Clean the racks.
So he cleans switches and racks. Is that primarily what he does?
Yes, he's a rack switch cleaner. I really love that ship. And again, that's probably a visual effect thing. Like, how can we do a reflective ship and make it look realistic and cool? And I think they pull it off.
I always thought the design of it was pretty cool too. It reminded me a little bit of the supersonic jet. What was it? The Blackbird. Like the shape of it.
Oh, that's 71.
Yeah. It always reminded me a little bit of that.
So this has nothing to do with the movie.
Okay.
But one time,
okay.
I had a dream. Like, this is not even a joke. I had a dream that I watched an SR-71 crash from the sky in the midst of an alien invasion, and the aliens only spoke in beatboxing. And it was amazing.
And they looked like Jar Jar, right?
Yeah, they just like
this scene here.
And that's how you knew they were coming, because they were beatboxing their way to the invasion. Yeah.
That was probably the design choice. So Bulba's walk cycle is really fascinating, and he mostly walks on his hands. he's probably one of the better alien. He's probably better than Jar Jar in that you don't like him for all the right reasons.
Right.
He's kind of got an interesting design, though. He basically looks like a shriveled ball sack. Like, look at him. Like, you just to shrivel it up and just squeeze it. Like, you just get this.
Oh, thank you for that visual, Randy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I do like the texture on Jar Jar's hands. He's got kind of a crazy pattern.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I honestly
Looks
think
like a maze.
the character design is actually pretty neat. It's just the character's character. Although the way his ears are moving in that scene looks really...
I've seen people point out that there's no reason why he goes with them here, particularly because this is a desert planet and he is an aquatic animal. He lives in the water. How is he surviving here? How is he breathing?
Well, we've concluded
established
earlier he breathes air, but you'd imagine that his skin would dry out very quickly and would have to have something that would be
Jar Jar's in a tank.
moisturizing.
It's a lot
him.
of lotion on.
I want to see the scene where Jar Jar's just lotioning up before they go.
Himself up all...
Did they all have to lotion up? I mean, it looks hot here. Like, it looks like,
maybe
they need sunscreen constantly.
Maybe those midichlorians keep them
The
immune from...
The midichlorians eat the sunburn right off of them.
So is Anakin an orphan or something?
No, his mother is in this movie, actually.
They're slaves.
They're slaves.
Oh.
Which is an interesting idea, to sort of have this planet in sort of a slave era.
Mm-hmm.
Which it doesn't seem to be in the older films, as though this has... you can, I guess, read into it. I'm sure that have you watched the Clone Wars? Did they get into that at all? Did we ever see anything about Tatooine? I haven't finished Clone Wars.
I don't recall anything specific about, especially as far as transitions in social justice on Tatooine.
Well, I mean, because the reason why I ask,
a dissertation topic.
the reason why I ask actually is because Anakin vowed to free the slaves here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious to see if, even as Darth Vader, did he come back and free the slaves? Or did that era just end? It kind of seems like it's almost over by the time you get to...
So are we saying that Darth Vader is the Abraham Lincoln of Star Wars?
Yes.
All right, I'll buy it.
Force scores.
Oh, 4 scores and a long time ago.
Yeah. He's perfect. God, I can't believe you developed C-3PO. And then he gave him this walk cycle, which is kind of funny. So you've never... Have you seen this movie? You've not seen this movie?
No.
So what do you think?
All right, so I'm not sure if I'm just missing a lot of, the point of things, but it seems like there's, a trade agreement problem, and then someone tried to abduct a queen.
Yeah.
And also there's a kid who builds robots.
Yep.
And that's... Am I, missing... Oh, and there's some weird Aquaman bug-eyed thing that's apparently mild to moderately racist.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. I mean, it's actually way more complicated than that. It could take several minutes just to explain exactly what is going on. Again, imagine being a 10-year-old. You're just what is this movie? What am I watching? Why is it so...
Then they hit things with the flashlights again.
Basically this whole thing is a political coup that's kind of going on. That's sort of all been very secretive because the Sith are this ancient culture of people who embrace the dark side, and they're hiding, they're waiting for the right moment to sort of reveal themselves. And so this is being orchestrated from the back end to kind of bring themselves into position of power. And then by the third film, because it'll take 2 more fucking movies to get there, they'll finally reveal themselves, and chaos will ensue. And that's the best. I mean, Episode 3 is easily the best one of the prequel trilogy, because it is it has the most it is the least boring of the 3
Things
films.
actually happen.
It has
3.
all the same problems. It sort of has this sort of sloppy sort of execution and style to it. I know the Plinkett reviews referred to it as just shot, reverse shot, people sitting in chairs. And as you can see, this is a great scene. Shot, reverse shot is happening here, where you've got, you know, a straight up shot of somebody and then a reverse shot of like the same scene, and they're all sitting and talking. This is a shot, reverse shot right here. You know, it's employed and stylized like you're watching a soap opera or something that's shot quickly and efficiently. I'd say there's a little more nuance in this one. I think he was really, I mean, and this is the part that makes me really sad, because I love George Lucas, so I think this movie really upset him. I think it hurt him a little bit that people hated it so much. You know, if you're listening, George Lucas, and I know you are, sorry that we dig on it, but we're also watching it because, you know, an ungodly amount of time later, and we still kind of like it. I still will watch it like every year, every other year.
And the thing is, you know, if he was feeling upset that people hated it, the reason is because he had earlier in his life created something that people were so passionate about and so personally invested in that, you know, that they cared enough to be pissed off that it wasn't a great movie.
It's a shame that Lawrence Kasdan, who I kind of call refer to him as the father of Star Wars, and that a lot of what people love about Star Wars actually comes from The Empire Strikes Back. A lot of the philosophy and you know, the nature of the Force, and a lot of that is Lawrence Kasdan's invention. And I think George didn't really understand how to bring that into this, and so you kind of feel the sort of like he doesn't totally understand it, right down to the midi-chlorians. I could tell you Lawrence Kasdan would be like, what the hell are you doing with the midi-chlorians?
We're getting pretty close to that, and that is the biggest thing that I like.
Yeah.
I think people are like, do you not understand this universe that you've created, reducing what was a spiritual thing with the Force, that, you know, that it flows through us and it's all this, reducing it to simple biology of this cell that you have in your blood.
It reduces the story.
Yeah, and it makes it less magical. Like, the original Star Wars trilogy was, you know, it was a story of fantasy and magic. And this is, you know, the midi-chlorians reduce it to science fiction. I always like the differentiation of.
Look, I love that.
Look at
his face. Continue. Sorry.
No, we were talking earlier about the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, and I love both. But Star Trek was always science fiction in the truest sense, whereas Star Wars was a space opera. Like, it's a different genre, and this is trying to twist it into the science fiction realm.
Well, and I think that, again, it goes back to the 90s theory that this movie was basically almost sabotaged by the 90s. But you have to think, what was hot right now?
Next Generation,
DS9, Voyager. All, like, Voyager and DS9 are running at the same time as this. You know, the Next Generation has just come off of like a multi-year Emmy winning streak. It's, you know, one of the best pieces of science fiction television ever made, still is. And I think he watched it. I think he really liked it. And I think he puts a little more Next Generation and that kind of tone into this story, which doesn't work with the fantasy elements of it. And I think
absolutely.
I mean, also, when the first movies came out, this was something totally new.
Yeah.
And then they had, like, what, 20-some years to, like,
yeah,
work their way into, like, people's nostalgia of their childhoods and stuff like that. Then something new comes out. Like, there's no way you can compete with nostalgia.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it'd be impossible to make a movie.
Well, we'll see when The Force Awakens comes out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because now there's a whole generation of kids that grew up with these movies that are gonna be seeing the new.
Who are gonna be like, this isn't like the prequels. No. Like that.
What happened to the trade negotiations? That's what I was coming out for.
I think one of the flaws of this film in particular, of actually the prequels as a whole, is I think George Lucas as a sort of creative designer, he's a very hands-on, very meticulous sort of filmmaker in that I think he likes to make all the decisions himself. He likes to kind of own artistic control on the whole film. So it isn't as much made by a committee as a movie that Disney would be. So I actually think there's a good potential for Force Awakens to kind of surprise people, in a way that this one maybe didn't.
Well, the way this one surprised people wasn't a positive
I was
thing.
definitely surprised. I mean, this is probably, seeing this movie for the first time, it's probably one of the most vivid movie-going memories I have. Just because every time, I just kept waiting for it to get better. Because, like, you watch like A New Hope, and A New Hope is great, but it does actually carry some of the flaws of the prequel trilogy with it. And I'm sure we're gonna get some hate from me saying that, but it kind of does, particularly if you watch them in sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 3 to 4, there's still kind of like a little bit of a stiltedness to it. And if you watch like the documentaries, they talk about how like when George did it, it didn't quite work, and so then they like Fox brought in another editor and re-edited the film. Are we on the midichlorian scene right now?
Yes, and no, actually we're on the virgin birth scene right now.
Oh yes, we're on the where George Lucas tried to make this, Passion of the Anakin.
The Passion of the Jedi is actually the title of the third in this prequel series.
Where was I with that before? I don't even know now. It was
apologize. Good. You're going somewhere.
It's gone. But they're I don't even know. It's gone. All I know is little Greedo is there now.
Yeah, the little pudgy Greedo.
Distracted as hell by that. Because he's so weird looking. He doesn't even look like the same,
No, and the thing is, after having the so overly articulated Jar Jar walking around, like, doing his little crip walk with everything bouncing, you have a rubber head on a kid with a mouth that doesn't move.
Oh, here it comes. He's gonna electrocute his lips, and it's gonna be hilarious. Yeah, we all did yelping, blubbering. My tongue is fat. That's what the text just said there. This also seems just like something that would happen to Urkel.
Misa do that?
Yeah. I think he literally does say, "Did I do that?" in this movie. I'm pretty sure he will say that toward the end of the movie.
Oh god.
Pay attention to the text. We'll see.
So this might be a bit of a senior citizen question, but what is going on right now? Why is this kid gonna race?
Because he's good.
He's a good pod racer.
But presumably it's because of his heightened reflexes because of all the midichlorians in his blood, which are what gives him, access to the Force.
I mean, why right now is this gonna happen? Wasn't there something about someone sponsoring him?
So the idea is that they're betting on the race to win his freedom, so that they can take him away from his slave life. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
working, which is based on E.T.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's there's a line in E.T. where Elliot says it's working, and it's delivered in the same sort of cadence.
I do appreciate the Star Wars films' use of the wipes between scenes.
Oh yeah,
because you don't see that often, and that was something that they carried over from the original trilogy into these that I liked. That
how did he get that cut? Did we ever see him get that cut? He has a cut on his arm.
I don't recall.
Also, George Lucas, I know you're listening. I mean, if you wanted to go back and redo this and remove the midichlorians, what's unique about taking the midichlorians out, what you could do, it's very easy, is you just have a boy who doesn't actually really know about the Force that much. He's only maybe read about it or heard about it. And without any knowledge of what it is, he has figured out how to use it. So at dinner, he lifts an apple and moves it toward him and eats it. And Liam Neeson, Qui-Gon Jinn, is like,
Holy shit!
This kid has the Force.
Yeah, he's
Like,
figured it out on his own.
I got goosebumps because that's an awesome way to develop the character.
As opposed to like
instead of like he has midi-chlorian count as high.
Again,
The
it's
highest more than Master Yoda.
It's the science fiction versus fantasy.
Fantasy,
thing.
yeah.
And this is it's like a scene from Star Trek. They're sending it down to the lab to have it analyzed, and they'll see what the count of such and such in his blood is. Like it's a completely different thing from this force that flows through us and binds everything together. It's like it's a different kind of storytelling that's happening.
Yeah.
I do have to say that I think Darth Maul is badass, and I'm glad that they managed to keep his character going in the Clone Wars animated series because he's pretty cool. I will also say, when I watched this movie, I didn't realize that his crazy skin markings were supposed to be like that's what his species looks like,
And that his voice is a different actor.
I didn't know that till this moment.
I'm pretty sure it's the guy who, like, in Guardians of the Galaxy is like, what a bunch of a-holes. I think it's that guy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Can you isolate that audio?
What a bunch of
and make that a
a-holes.
ringtone for me? Because I want to wake up to that every morning. What a bunch of a-holes.
What a bunch of a-holes.
I can't get my phone to work right tonight. That phone has been all kinds of jacked.
So, like, that's what his species looks
Just so
like.
you
Are there
people
other
on
ones of
internet
his
land know.
species?
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
like-
There are. There's actually one on the Jedi Council. We'll see later on. I don't know they actually see her, but there was a toy of her.
And in the Clone Wars, you find out that there's like they're like witches. The females of the species are like these powerful Force witches, I think. And the dudes are just kind of their servants. Correct me, internet, if I'm wrong, which I may well be. So destroy me in the comments section if I am.
How do you pronounce that?
Peter Serafinowicz.
Serafinowicz? Peter Serafinowicz is the voice of Darth Maul. He was
What
in...
a bunch of a-holes.
What a bunch of a-holes. He's got a great voice. He's an awesome actor. He also appeared on Parks and Recreation for a couple episodes while they were shooting Guardians of the Galaxy.
Huh.
But yeah, he
Was it just because he was already hanging out with what's his face?
Yeah, well, they actually shot some episodes of Parks in London.
Okay.
I think to get Chris Pratt in there.
Okay.
He's Gungan Scout, Battle Droid Commander, and Darth Maul.
Okay.
So he's quite a few voices. He's a great actor. Peter, whatever your name is, if you ever want to come on a commentary, give us an email.
Or if you just want to record yourself calling me an a-hole,
Yeah.
that would also be super.
Say, the people that permanently geek. What a bunch of a-holes.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
That
That would make that my ringtone,
Yeah,
my
that would
text tone,
make my
my
decade
alarm
right
when I
there.
wake up, my alarm when I go to bed, because I have an alarm when I go to bed. I don't.
Permanently geek. What a bunch
What
of
a
a-holes.
bunch of a-holes.
You know, having a
These things just look like foreskin. These little, like, you see it? Like, it's just sort of like this.
So
There's a lot of like.
So are we saying that we've got the shriveled ball sack flying the foreskin?
the vagina mouths.
Yeah,
And then
this
the
is getting very geneticular.
for a kids film.
For a kids film,
For a movie
there's
for
a whole
babies.
lot of. Oh man.
Oh, Anakin is way too young. I think that's all based on like that one line in Empire Strikes Back where Yoda's like, too young, and and apparently this is the age. Like, oh come on, too young. This is too young.
Having the different voice actor for a Sith character in Star Wars, there's a precedent for that though,
Yeah.
because it was a different actor in the suit than who, it wasn't James Earl Jones who was rocking the suit the whole time.
Yeah.
The Darth Vader suit, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to see that before you went in cryo? See the original Star Wars. Well, we have more goofy-looking characters.
That one that just went by always struck me as looking like a character from the Phantom Toll Booth.
I was thinking
Yeah,
Alice in
yeah.
Wonderland.
Okay, no, that's exactly.
It
Like,
has that kind of.
Like
Oh,
a
and these,
Mr.
like-
potato
like-
head out of a yam.
I like these.
instead.
There was a sports show in the '90s, and it's completely escaping me now. But these two sort of like talking heads, definitely personify them. If you know in the comments, be sure to comment. Random
and that just looks like it should be a character from Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah,
like one of the random mocking
Tadpoles.
jungle creatures. I do kind of like his racing getup there, though.
there was an article on Entertainment Weekly many years ago that sort of pointed out that the heart of Star Wars was. Then this was actually before these films came out. That said the heart of Star Wars was. There's a little scene in A New Hope when a tiny little droid is just driving around the Death Star, and Chewbacca's in handcuffs, and he's being escorted, and this tiny little droid that's like the size of like a computer or something.
Oh yeah, like a mouse droid.
Yeah, a mouse
that's what
droid
they're
drives up to him. Yeah, mouse droid. The mouse droid. There's the foreskin. The mouse droid drives up to him, and like Chewbacca it was like and then like the mouse droid is like backs up and then runs away.
Yeah.
And they called that the heart of Star Wars because it was this funny little moment that didn't need to be there, but it gave context to everything about this universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like George Lucas read that article and then made an entire movie of those scenes. Because that's exactly what this film feels like.
Yeah.
It has all along felt like it's a whole lot of little asides that he sort of like clunked together into a narrative about trade negotiations. He got Liam Neeson to show up because Liam Neeson didn't have anything to do for a few months, so he just was in this movie, and there we go. Back to Darth Maul. Because I kind of got sidetracked watching the movie.
We got distracted from talking by watching the film.
He's
once,
actually
the movie was interesting enough that we were paying attention to it.
I really like his design. I think as a character, he's not that interesting.
Okay.
Not to step on you or anything like that, but to offer a secondary.
That's fair. That's
view.
fair. As as a kid seeing the previews and all that, I just thought he looked scary and badass.
He's
and like
very scary.
He looked like a good villain.
I had a friend though who pointed out, because I used to think the same. I was like, he's really cool. And I had a friend point out many years ago when this film came out. I was like, oh, he's pretty cool. And my friend was like, no, he's not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, the very first scene you see Darth Vader in the very first movie you ever see Darth Vader in prior to these movies. Darth Vader kills somebody by accident. He's choking a guy, and the guy dies while he's in the middle of choking him. He says Darth Maul literally doesn't kill anybody except for one character, really. So, he's narratively or character-wise, he's not that interesting. And I remember thinking that's kind of an interesting viewpoint. I've really mulled it over, and while I think his design is cool, I think he is underutilized in this movie.
That's fair.
He's
That's
not
fair.
a very he's not a very dynamic
He's
character.
more evil because he's hanging out with a bad guy and he looks evil.
Yeah,
he doesn't
he's got
actually
evil paint and
wearing evil face paint.
what does he look like? I mean, is that a paint that he's wearing? I think it is supposed to be paint.
On his skin?
Yeah.
No, that's
That's
actually that's
that
what
is
their
his
skin
skin?
patterns look like. Yeah, that and they have different colored ones. I think.
Visually, he is really a terrific character.
Right.
You can't.
And there's little kid Greedo.
Sitting, I think it's not behind us. But, I have a Darth Maul standee that I bought many years ago when this film came out. And yeah, I loved it. For those of you who follow us on Permanently Geek, and if you don't, subscribe today. Come on. We're gonna be playing the Pod Racer game on Play It Smash It.
Oh yeah.
So, it's actually not that bad of a game, but we're still gonna smash it. So,
Was that?
be
wait
sure
a
to
sec.
watch.
That's
Warwick Davis.
I was
think is
gonna
his
say
name.
that was Warwick Davis there. He played one of the Ewoks and
He plays multiple roles. I think he might even be a few characters in this. I think he might have been Greedo.
Okay.
I know he's at least a few different characters. I think it's Wild World of Sports
World
that
of
was like
Sports.
it was like a wacky news, like a wacky sportscaster show, and I think this was the sportscasters here were inspired by them.
We're supposed to be the two different sportscasters from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really love the sequence. I've seen a fan edit that actually edits it slightly different and uses music in a different way that kind of makes it more dynamic, but it's a cool scene. This, you can tell this was the scene he wanted to do the most. This was the scene he was like, I want to get this right. I want to do this right. And this was something that I think he wanted to do with the original Star Wars films, and he couldn't. So he does it here.
Like a racing scene, or just...
Yeah, George Lucas was a big time racer. Prior to being a filmmaker, he used to race cars and stuff like that. He made the movie American Graffiti. It was kind of the first sort of big movie he made.
That was the one that Harrison Ford was. That was one of his first notable roles.
Harrison Ford was in that one. Richard Dreyfuss is in that movie. And that's somewhat semi-autobiographical because George Lucas, when he was young, was in a horrific car accident and very nearly died. It was just something that he's always loved racing. He's had a fascination with it. Even after that experience and sort of, being able to tell stories about that. So I think here, we obviously have it muted, but these even sound like stock cars or Indy cars when you hear them drive. Like the sound design in this scene is incredible.
And there's our Alice in Wonderland. He looks like the caterpillar.
Yeah.
He looks like the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland. Warwick Davis was also the leprechaun in the Leprechaun films.
Yeah, yeah. I had an opportunity to interview him several years ago, but unfortunately I was not available. I couldn't do it. But yeah, he's a terrific talent. He's like Willow.
Yeah, it's incredible the number of roles that he's been in. He's just one of those guys.
Literally a kid when they did the EWOK movies. Because you see here, he's not that old.
Because
he's maybe 40 or so around this time.
He was
so
Wicket in
Wicket, yeah.
Yeah, Wicket the Ewok. One of the main.
Who did he play in this film?
He played the spectator that we were talking about right there. He played someone named Wald. I'm not sure which one that was.
He wasn't Greedo?
Was that actually supposed to be...
That was supposed to be Greedo.
That was supposed to be young Greedo. Okay, no. So it's Wald, Padre, Spectator, and Mos Espa, Citizen. So
yeah, there's a bunch of cameos in this movie, like director's kids and stuff like that. That might have been one of his kids or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know that there was a bunch of there's actually, I shit you not, there is a George Lucas family action set from all the cameos. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. I'm gonna put up a still of this so you guys can see it. There is a George Lucas family cameo action set, and it's all of his kids and him. It's the most self-indulgent thing probably ever released in the Star Wars universe. And it's George Lucas's cameo and all of his kids, and you can buy this as a set.
So is that something that George Lucas made himself to sell?
Well,
or is this some guy who was just you know what? I've got a plastic injection molding machine.
No, this is
a lot of free time.
This is officially licensed. I saw it at an exchange store, a CD game exchange, not that long ago. I almost bought it, and I'm kind of regretting that I didn't. But I was I don't know. It was $15, and whether I wanted to spend $15 on George Lucas's family. But then again, I have a George Lucas family action figure set at my house I can put on my desk. So, maybe I'll go back and see if it's still there. But for you folks on YouTube land, I'll put up a picture so you can see it. He looks like a little baby, which is he actually works the least, I think, in the pod race scene because he looks so young and so out of place compared to everybody else. Because literally everybody is an adult. And I know he's trying to show us that, the Jedi are, because he has this ability, he's unique. But the goggles, everything about it is just
the goggles just
make
his cheeks look so much pudgier and
he looks like a 4-year-old.
Yep.
I really like the motion in this, the way it moves. It feels very fast. Visually for '99, this was damn good.
No, this is still a pretty cool action sequence.
Yeah. Rubber mask. Yoda is the worst. Although he might be CG in the Blu-ray. I think he is. I think they remove the puppet.
Oh, really?
Because puppet Yoda's the most terrifying thing. Because it's like somebody who didn't really know how to do puppets made this Yoda. Like, it's just not.
Like, I'm imagining the Fandango like paper bag.
It's not that bad. It just, you know what Yoda looks like, and it's just like, that's not Yoda. That ain't Yoda. That ain't Yoda. Well, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, it's one time where I think even the fans who don't like CG were like, no, I'm all right with them replacing Yoda. Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm just showing Alex the picture of Yoda.
When I was in 4th grade, we had to have a pen pal in a nursing home, and he looked exactly like that, only white, not green.
Oh my god. Oh, I like somebody like randomly, I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. Somebody randomly made him like smoking a doobie and like
Hey, younger Yoda just like he liked to get high a little bit. I mean, come on, tell me you didn't know that.
I like it. It says fear leads to anger, anger leads to stress leads to doobies, and doobies lead to Twinkies. I'll put this up on online so people at home can see this insanity. But yeah, Yoda, I mean, I think they were trying to make him look younger, but I think they just didn't quite. It's not that much time. I mean, he's 900 years old. He's not going to age like that significantly in 30 years.
Span of 30 years, like, I mean, yeah, they were probably a pretty rough 30 years, but he's not going to age all that noticeably in that time period.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the equivalent of like 6 months for a human as far as how long he'd been around.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder what he looked like when he was like you know,
hitting puberty, and that hair started growing out of his ears.
Growing in weird places, my hair is. Because he doesn't have the old man Yoda voice. He's like sounds a little bit weirder.
It's like his voice is cracking, but he's still talking stupid like Yoda does. So,
he actually sounded like Kermit the Frog, just with his weird like speech patterns when he was younger.
He was like this. Talk like this, I did. Looks like Anakin's mom is watching this on like an iPad for babies. You know, where they have like all this like shit around it.
Hey, she's a slave. That's all she can get.
That's all she can get. That's all she can do. What can you do?
What you gonna do about it? I'm a slave on Tatooine. All I got is the leapfrog. I watch the pod race on the leapfrog.
Watch the pod race on the leapfrog, and I collect fans so I can clean them.
I'm not entirely sure why we're making Anakin's mom sound like Rocky, but
hey yo, watch I can't do it. I can't do his accent. Hey yo, watch a movie on the thing. That's terrible. That was the worst.
On the leapfrog.
Watto died. He didn't die, unfortunately. He lives on to be in the sequels. Oh wait, no. I think he might be in one of the films.
Voodoo.
Very briefly. Yeah, I did it! Yippee! There it is. Yippee. There's a couple of yippies in this movie. Wait, did you see that? They almost high-fived, but they realized they couldn't. Probably because they couldn't see him.
I do like the little dance move that Baby Greedo did right there. Pudgy little Greedo. A little hip shake, and there's a little bit of Ricky Martin action right there.
I love watching extras and scenes like this because you can tell that they were like really poorly directed. So like, there's that Greedo-y guy in the background who's like whooping. He's like whoop whoop.
There's Warwick Davis again.
And there's a very, very rubbery looking CG creation. It's kind of odd. Like they're trying to make it look rubbery.
Mm-hmm.
Just build the suit. Come on. He's like, you owe me everything, huh?
Yeah. Well, in that case.
In about 10 years, I'm going to totally try to put my penis inside you.
And succeed.
And be a complete creeper in the process.
Oh, yeah.
He's so creepy in the second film.
Adolescent Annie is
creepy as shit. Plinkett reviews do like the bad boyfriend alert. Like he's like all the pattern of an abusive boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
That's just a random guy just walked in and...
Like, all right, you walk through
I
the
lost
background of this
everything.
scene.
Whenever you gamble, my friend. But he gambled. He just gambled.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Well-
kind of stacked the deck, but he still gambled.
So if you gamble and cheat, then you come out.
That's the lesson that
That's
Qui-Gon.
the Jedi way.
That's the lesson of today's commentary. Cheat when you gamble.
That's the way the good guys do it. Because the Jedi, they're the good guys.
Oh, the good guys. I like that Qui-Gon Jinn is... I've seen him often referred to as sort of a gray. You know, he's sort of a gray Jedi. He's kind of... maybe has a better understanding of the dark side than most Jedi do. Like, look at Ewan McGregor here. You know, Obi-Wan. He doesn't know the dark side.
Oh, no.
He has a tail, ladies and gentlemen. This guy does not know anything about being a bad guy. He maybe knows a little bit of 90s hip-hop, and that's probably about it.
He's really into New Jack Swing.
Yeah. Or like MC Hammer. He listens to like, remember like when MC Hammer was all like into like going to school and stuff like that? He was always like singing about going to school. We wonder why his career took a nosedive. Here she is with her switches. She's just got
Those are some clean ass switches.
Gotta clean
Yeah.
those switches.
Sweet,
Clean those fan switches.
Maybe it's like art she makes with just like random shit.
She's making art out of found objects.
She is also a terrific actress who is I think pretty. Her and Liam Neeson are the best characters in this whole film.
Has she done anything else notable apart from this?
I think she's. I want to say she's like an Israeli actress or something.
Okay.
Trying to. I'm sure she's been in quite a bit. Pernelia August, I believe is her name. Yeah.
Pernelia. That's a cool name.
Yeah. Look at that. But yeah, she's great. She's great in this movie because she kind of knows like what's gonna happen. You know, she kind of knows she's getting a little screwed over, but like she loves her son, and
Yep.
like she knows that he is meant for great things, and that this is gonna help. She hasn't done a whole lot since then. I mean, she's done about maybe 20 movies or so, but like
Okay.
it doesn't seem like massive roles. It seems like maybe.
She's sort of a character actor, and
Yeah, and she's kind of gone back. I think she maybe is she Swedish? I don't know. I thought I remember reading that she was. She had kind of a foreign film pedigree before doing this film.
okay.
It looks like she's Swedish.
Okay.
Yeah, she's great in the movie. She delivers arguably like if Liam Neeson sort of delivers the heart of the Jedi character, she sort of delivers the heart of the rest of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
With every look, every glance, the way she's sort of hugging him and like has this really like knowing kind of.
I mean, to be honest, she's one of the few actors that actually appears to be acting.
Yeah, maybe not appears to be acting, but
No,
actually
that actually
appears
is
to
acting.
be
Yeah.
the character.
Yes.
Um,
She and Liam Neeson are about the only ones that you think of them as the character and not as the actor.
Yeah. We go from like this really serious scene to just like wobbly C-3PO. It's a cool like I think it might be a practical effect too. I think it's a puppet.
Looks like it was designed by the same guy that designed Johnny Five from.
Why
Why
all of a sudden are we looking at it from C-3PO's perspective? The movie never does this ever,
Yeah.
Oh,
except
that's
for
weird.
one scene.
Weird first-person view they've got going.
I have no idea what was trying to. Yeah, that's the weirdest scene. That to me is like actually probably the weirdest scene in this whole movie because it's a weird like you never really go into a character's perspective. It's like going into Darth Vader's mask, and just being in there the whole time. You're like, what?
And all you hear is just a whole lot of.
Yeah, because it's got to be like really amplified.
Oh yeah, that's
Like, you think after-
absurdly loud being inside that.
That's why he's got to go in the chamber. Like that's why he's got to sit in
like
the
I
chamber.
can't stand my
He's
own
like, "Oh
my
my God."
own breathing anymore.
He just listens to classical music.
He's a big fan of
Huey
Mozart.
Lewis in the news.
He's got the power of love just playing inside there all the time. It's the power of love. I will come back and free you, Mom.
I promise. And that was with more feeling than Jake Lloyd delivered it.
Well, and she delivers it with this like sort of like, oh, that's cute, but that's not going to happen. Now be brave. Don't look back. Don't look back!
The Swedes are a very forceful people.
Oh my god.
She looks cold there.
What's, I think, well, no, actually it is supposed to be kind of warm.
So, is she a magic person too, or no?
No.
No, she had a virgin birth.
Yes.
Which, you know, spoiler alert, but in the episode 3, they kind of imply that this guy's master, Darth Sidious, or Darth Plagueis, one of the two, used the Force to create him. Which is why he is so powerful, because he is literally Force, kind of incarnate in a way, like...
He's made out of Force jizz.
And I feel like that was George Lucas's way of explaining why the midi-chlorians were so important. It still doesn't really work, but whatever. I like that Darth Maul waits for him there. Darth Maul lets him deliver a line of dialogue and then goes back to fighting it. Darth Maul's just like sitting there, like literally there's like a split second where you see Darth Maul just standing there, and then all of a sudden he starts to fight.
Darth Maul understands dramatic tension. I always did like the double-ended lightsaber
Now here-
that Maul rocks out.
He's walking, right? He was walking under the ship, and then he's on the ground. There's a scene that got cut there where Darth Maul jumps into the ship and they fight.
Oh,
and
really?
then he kicks him out, and he falls while he's kicking. And then when you see Darth Maul standing there, that's Darth Maul getting up after being kicked down.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, look.
Someday you can have a rat tail as good as his.
Someday I'm going to cut you in half. He's like, that's okay. I'm going to disappear while you do it. Good thing, too. Otherwise, the movie would have lost its PG rating. Anakin or Obi-Wan Kenobi just flops down and half of his body is cut
He's like
in half.
trying to put his guts back in, like,
He's like, oh
like
my
one of those
god.
war movies that get a little too real.
You're like, oh god.
Mommy!
Holy shit.
Mommy!
Yeah, if Obi-Wan had actually gotten chopped in half in episode 4, my god, that would have been a different impression people had of that film.
You're like, holy shit.
And they only halfway ever really managed to explain why he was able to disappear like that. Like they went into it in the Clone Wars.
I really think it probably had to do at the time with like a ratings thing and not being able to visually do it. So they just like came up with this like kind of like pulled it out of their hat and just did it. Because yeah, it's never really. Yeah, I think Clone Wars goes into it a little bit. It's never totally fully explained.
Yeah, there was this whole thing where he was
cold.
searching for the secret to being able to to not die or something like that. So
I think the idea is to be pure of heart, which is why when he does pass away, he gets to be a ghost. Which, if you're watching this version, he also gets to be younger.
Mm-hmm. now,
Which makes no sense.
Now, it's actually what's interesting though. I had a friend that I was talking to about the scene at the end of Return of the Jedi where you see
They used to sell that necklace at Walmart.
where you see Anakin and Obi-Wan and the little green guy. What's going on with my brain right now? We were just talking about how
Yoda?
Yoda, that guy.
There we go,
There
Yoda.
he is. And Yoda, when you see their ghosts there, that it's the younger version of Anakin. So one of my friends was talking about watching through these movies with his kids that they hadn't seen the old ones, and it was very important to the kid that you were seeing what Anakin looked like before he turned evil at the end. So having it
kinda
be
makes
that
sense.
same character
In a
at
way,
the end.
he died. He died,
exactly.
and then like he died when he became Darth Vader.
Yep.
Just
And so-
like Obi-Wan kind of says.
So I actually can when my friend explained that to me, I was like, okay, I can actually sort of get behind that. Of like this is the ghost of who died when Darth Vader became Darth Vader.
It doesn't even really look like Anakin though. Like Hayden Christensen in that scene, like even knew that it was going to be used in that way, because he just looks like a pervert in that scene. He's just like, hey Luke, I'm your dad. Like he just has this really weird eyes down sort of creepy look. It's really funny. I showed this to somebody who did not know the big twist of Star Wars, which I'd say the big twist is the Darth Vader reveal. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming you know the Darth Vader reveal. Yeah. And it's rare to find anybody who doesn't know it at this point. I found somebody who didn't know it, who had no idea.
Well, like, is that someone who just was in the dark or just didn't care?
They were an uber Christian, and they didn't watch like anything at their house, and so they had never even heard or really seen these movies before. And so I showed it to this person, and I showed her episode 1 because episode 2 and 3 were not out yet. I only showed her episode 1 and then 4, 5, and 6. Which is a weird thing to do, just to watch this movie and then those. So we watched this, and she actually kind of enjoyed this movie. She really liked Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker. And then we got to... And, like, the whole time we're all kind of snickering because we know what's going to happen. And, like, we get to the reveal in Empire Strikes Back, and she's like, wait a minute, pause the movie! And we pause the movie, and she looks at me, and she goes, that little boy becomes that horrible man? What? Are you kidding?
Like, just in life in general, I always wondered about that. Like, someone had to toilet train Hitler. Like, that was a thing that had to happen. Like, someone had to teach Hitler how to take a dump in the toilet. and then, if
Somebody-
you're the person doing that, you're never
Somebody,
gonna...
one of his Gestapo, at one point was probably like, hey, Hitler, your zipper's down. And he had to, like, put it up. He had to be that guy, too. Like,
Shakes mein Führer.
like, it's got to be like, because, like, when it's revealed, you're like, oh, that guy's a bad, oh, God. I had a really weird experience where I told him his zipper was down.
He said, peekaboo, and pulled it back up.
I think here, and maybe that's the success of the prequel trilogy, is that it does show you a character like Hitler and how they got to be that way. Mm-hmm. That they started off with the best of intentions, and then they started following the wrong guy and went down the wrong path. Unfortunately, I think the film does a really bad job paving that path. His decision-making is based solely on a conceit that was never really revealed ever before. The whole, like, we can stop Padme from dying.
Right.
And that was, to me, kind of a weird thing. This looks like maybe the HD footage, because some of this was not shot on film, some of it was shot in HD.
Oh, really?
This actually feels like it's maybe the HD footage, because it looks a little flatter than the other.
So do you think in the Star Wars universe, like around the time of episodes 4, 5, and 6, if there were people that had the conversation, like, if you could travel back in time and kill Darth Vader as a kid, would you do it? Do you think people had that conversation? And if so, we know what Darth Vader as a kid looked like.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of an odd thing. Like, yeah.
Are there? Here's a question.
Did Luke Skywalker have that conversation with Han? Like prior to Empire Strikes Back, he's like, "Hey, I wish I could go back in time and just kill that Darth Vader guy."
That would be a fun little time travel paradox. If you're a Jedi and you travel back in time and kill your father, who happens to be the most evil man in the galaxy.
Truth be told, probably after the events of Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker only wants to travel back in time and not kiss his sister,
not make out with his sister. Yeah.
Oh, the weird head guy in the background is because it just moves back and forth. There's Yaddle, that's the female. Yeah, and there's one of the Maul guys, the Darth Maul species, whatever it is. Fans out there in Internet land. He's sitting next to maybe the tall head guy, I think.
Okay.
They showed him very briefly. He did not seem to have the paint on him.
Really?
So.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, but this was added for the Blu-ray. All this stuff here, and every subsequent release has had now new CG Yoda.
But so the scene was there. It was just that they replaced the creepy puppet Yoda.
Yeah.
Who looked like he was high with a nice CG Yoda.
Yeah. The CG Yoda looks a lot better. It's one of the few times where it does work better. Look at that look. Yoda gave him a look like, do you believe this shit that Qui-Gon just brought here?
And you know that Samuel L. Jackson's character is like, my God, these motherfuckers.
Who, Sam Jackson, who just loves Star Wars and wanted to be in these movies.
He was like, but you gotta give me a purple lightsaber.
Yeah,
I want a fucking purple
He
lightsaber.
specifically asked for a purple light. And, like, George was like, well, there are only 3 colors. And
Like, no.
he's like, no, you're going to figure it out.
I'm gonna have a purple lightsaber.
So it's like a different, it's like some weird, it has a different name. It's not even like, it's a different kind of, like it's like an electric one or something like that.
Really?
It has a different.
Like the color, I thought they just came in different colors. Like they actually.
Yeah, I thought
named
it was
something?
the different colored gem that they used in.
There are generally 3.
3 colors of gems that can
there's
be
the-
had
yeah, the
for
red one, the
for
green.
crystals.
Red is supposed to be the most powerful, but the least stable. Which is that the theory in Force Awakens, of course. Probably by the time you hear this, folks, you'll know. But the broadsword might have been a venting thing, because it doesn't do it right.
Is this the scene where we see the ET?
ET and I think the Chewbacca race is in here, and some quick cameos.
So what is the Federation?
By
here?
Chewbacca race, do you just mean Wookiees?
Yeah, Wookiees.
Okay.
What's Sam Jackson's character's name?
Oh God.
We're old.
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu.
There it is.
My
Found
God.
it. It was in my brain.
Yeah, I'm looking up the Mace Windu lightsaber to kind of get a.
In Wikipedia, if
Yeah,
you're not
Wikipedia.
familiar with the wiki for all things Star Wars, it's called Wikipedia.
Yeah. Looking here.
Again, for kids, here's some fun negotiations in a Senate.
Yeah, it looks like like a special kind of crystal that he was given.
All right.
I remember it having another name that I read like in interviews. George Lucas sort of referred to it as something else. Actually, it would have been cool if they just because George Lucas always refers to them as laser swords because I think that was his original idea. Let's call them laser swords.
How often do you think that there's like some kid who's like, they're called lightsabers?
But I actually would really. That would have been cool to actually call his a laser sword. That it actually is a different.
It's something different than the standard lightsaber, which is why it can be purple.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of different style lightsabers. I've seen some of the toys. There's the Chewbacca Wookiee race.
Yeah.
This guy was played General Zod in Superman 2. There's the ETs
indeed.
down in the corner.
Oh yeah, there they are, hanging out down in the
It's
corner.
canon now. ET is canon. We could do a commentary on that. Include it.
Excellent. Excellent.
Maybe we'll do that later. We'll get to it. She looks so sad. The boy will not pass the counselor's test, Master.
It's because
He's still too old. Good Christ. I fucking hate this. If you pay attention to the skyline and all the ships, you'll see them just cycle over and over and over and over
It's
again.
like the background in a Flintstones cartoon.
Yeah, like we're already seeing the same ships are just passing. And there they are passing by again in the background. It's
so lazy.
I mean, at the time, probably rendering purposes. I mean, until like you get to until you get to the kind of computer that you see that renders the effects in Lord of the Rings, where the computer literally renders different fight cycles for every single person.
Right.
I think this was the best they could do.
I did appreciate the fact that they slightly staggered the walk cycles for a lot of the droids, so that they weren't just like when they weren't marching in formation, that they were like slightly staggered. I thought that was a nice decision as far as animation goes.
But this is, this movie gets, quite a lot of flack for just cramming the screen with stuff. And, this is a prime example of, like, this is a pretty important scene, and every time it cuts to Anakin, there's just, like, all the shit in the background. There just won't stop being shit in the background. This would be so much more effective if this room were just really bright and very sterile and, like, very cold and made Anakin feel really alone. But instead, you have all the shit in the background that's constantly moving, and it kind of, like, look at that. Like, and it's just always the same, like, ships. It's always the same, like, it's the exact same ships constantly in the background.
One thing that I thought was interesting that was developed a bit more again in the Clone Wars cartoons was the idea of the fact that we think that the Jedis are supposed to be the good guys, and they don't necessarily act like it through these first 3 movies.
Yeah,
like they're making a lot of shady moves.
Shady movies.
What's
going on
They make
there?
a lot of shitty movies. No, they're making a lot of shady moves, and essentially they're working to overthrow the elected government in a lot of ways.
Which, if you watch Star Trek, it was exactly what was going on DS9.
Oh yeah.
Exactly what was going on at DS9. So you can tell he borrowed it. It's there. If there's a lot of like that weird, like the Federation, which I hate, kind of that the Federation gets corrupt. I think it kind of is anti Gene Roddenberry's vision, but
yeah.
The idea was that they make good decisions. But I do like that the Jedi have become a bureaucratic organization. There's too many of them.
Yep.
And they function now as diplomats.
And they kind of act with impunity in many situations as well. And they're completely unaccountable to really anyone. And so they've become these, this bureaucratic organization that just does whatever the hell they want in the galaxy.
Which makes it easier for Palpatine to convince people that they need to be eradicated.
Absolutely, because, a lot of his arguments are pretty sound that the Jedi are too powerful. They just do whatever they want to. And I think it's interesting that, in effect, there's the whole we'll bring balance to the Force and all of that. And in some ways, breaking down the Jedi Order to nothing and, breaking down the dark side so there's, almost
Look at
nobody
that.
left.
Look at how he's sitting. That's how a pimp Jedi sits.
Like, I got a purple lightsaber, I'll show you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's sort of an interesting, and that's one of the things. Like, as much as this film is for me a bit of a disappointment, I really do think that it has some weight to it. It is telling a story about the fall of Rome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's telling it in a sort of fantastical science fiction-y world, and it doesn't always hit its mark, but it does tell its story, and it occasionally tells it well. And there's that guy with the wobbly head in the background, and I can't stop staring at it. Nor can I stop staring at the ships that are just constantly flying around in the background in this repeating pattern over and over and over again.
They never land. They never do any. There's no stoplights. Like, is this just a
makes
perpetual traffic jam?
It's perpetual traffic. Like, every shot is loaded with them, and I know what they thought it was going to be cool, but it doesn't come off cool. It comes off really distracting. It's fucking distracting.
It's fucking distracting.
Quote, Christian Bale. Christian Bale, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I know it was...
And we know you are.
Yeah, I know you're listening. It's an embarrassing moment in your life, but God, it was funny. I still say it's fucking distracting. I still say it. It was one of the more quotable rants I've ever seen. It's one of those things where rants like that get leaked, and everybody kind of has a, like, oh my God, they're out of control. But shit like that happens all the time on productions.
Oh yeah.
You're working with people for like 16 hours a day for, fucking 6 days a week, sometimes 7 if a production is running tight, and like, it's just, things get heated.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, and that's been going on for decades. Like, Buddy Rich, who is a famous musician, there's a infamous rant of his where he's just going off on his musicians. And apparently, he had moments like that, but if you were to ask the people he worked with, they're like,
Your focus determines your reality.
But apparently, for the most part, those
Generally-
rants were not
Yeah.
what he was always like. It was just, that he happened to be that somebody was recording, like somebody had hit record on a practice session when he just went off on it. And it's worth listening to the rant.
Yeah,
it's a
if
pretty
you ever
solid
get a
one.
chance to listen to that,
It's-
that's an
it
amazing.
is.
That was one of the first virally things I ever listened to as a kid. Like,
Oh, yeah.
my dad had a copy
Oh, yeah.
or something.
That's where the line in the Beastie Boys song,
Yeah.
"I'm Buddy Rich when I fly off the handle" came from.
Yeah. I'd like to think on this set it was Jake Lloyd who just lost his shit all the time. I don't like this movie and everybody's mean to me and I have to say yippee and it's stupid and fuck you! Fuck you, George Lucas! Fuck your face!
It was
Everybody
actually
like, damn, this kid's a diva.
and it was actually that exact same rant that landed him in jail recently.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jake Lloyd. This just looks like she has boobs, like saggy boobs wrapped in the... Feels very Peter Jackson-y, and I don't really know why. Just saggy boobs from Dead Alive.
I was like,
All the
what,
early Peter
what
Jackson
Peter
movies.
Jackson are we talking about? Like,
Folks, if
who-
you don't know anything about Peter Jackson beyond like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, watch Meet the Feebles.
I was gonna
Watch
say
Dead
who,
Alive.
Who in Lord of the Rings has saggy boobs? Because I must have. Is that one of the extended cuts?
I think at the end of Dead Alive, or I think it's Brain Dead and other places, but I think you see the grandmother character, like it turns into this huge monster, and she's got these like really weird saggy boobs, and it's just one of those things that you can't unsee it. Like right now, I have a picture of it, mental picture in my head, and I can't get it out. You gonna look it up?
I can.
Save as desktop pattern.
I will search for
Dead
Alive's
Granny. I'm on it. Let's see here. Oh, of course, it's not going to be anything. Let me look up Dead Alive Monster. This is really exciting for people listening. Watch
Okay.
us Google. Oh, here we go.
That's-
Here we go.
Oh God, that is horrific. By the way,
Whoa.
don't Google Dead Alive Granny Saggy Boobs. That will get you something entirely different.
We'll throw up a picture maybe of the granny right
And a
here.
link to the search results for Dead Alive Grandma Sadie's saggy boobs.
I can tell you with absolute certainty, however, if you're looking for pictures of grannies that are nearly dead with saggy boobs, the internet has those for you. So
I always like this falling in the trees.
rock me to sleep tonight.
Like drink some warm milk. A little bit of dust on the edge.
Light yourself a candle and enjoy. It looks like Ewan McGregor's hair is fake hair.
Okay, how?
It looks like a wig. That's totally a wig. That's a wig.
Well, I'm pretty sure. Well, you think?
Yeah, because I think generally at this time his head was shaved. Like he used to have a
Really?
shaved head in this era. So, I'm gonna guess that because there are a couple moments here where it looks like they went back and did some reshoots to fill in some gaps, and like it looks like Liam Neeson's beard has been glued on and stuff like that.
By the way,
There's a nobody there.
if you're interested in some cool insight into,
Yeah, that hair is totally different looking.
yeah, you're
It's
not
like
wrong.
not even the same. Like it was like almost orange in the previous scene, and the hair cut was much different. Maybe he got his hair cut.
Yeah.
He went to Naboo and got his hair cut.
But yeah, if you're looking for some interesting like insight into Ewan McGregor as a human being, there's as opposed
As
to
a human
Jedi.
man.
But no, there are these two series like reality show things that he did called Long Way Round and Long Way Down, where he goes on these epic
Yeah.
motorcycle journeys with a friend of his. And I'm a motorcycle guy, and so I decided to watch it partly for that. But it's really interesting, sort
Yeah.
of getting to see what he's like. Not when he's not acting.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think he'd be a cool guy to hang out with. I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind, going on a trip with him.
Obviously, maybe by the time you listen to this, you'll know. But I really love to see him appear in the new films. An old makeup to look like
Right,
Obi-Wan. I think it would be really neat to have Luke talking with like like Hayden Christensen and you know.
Or if they can't get Hayden, they can get Jake Lloyd in there to play.
Jake Lloyd, his pube stash. Hilarious shot.
I like
this
I
is
like that right after we say that they cut to Jake Lloyd and he's like, "Hey, stop making fun of me."
I like this.
that
They
was-
look at each other like they had a bet. This whole plot conceit of like her being like having a fake president is actually weird in that as I pointed out earlier, the guy who played General Zod in Superman 2 is in this film, in which the same thing happens. Zod comes before the president and this guy starts speaking, and then he kind of threatens him, and then the real president steps forward and says, "I'm the real president." It's sort of fun. I don't know whether that was an intentional thing. I'm sure it was, but maybe it wasn't.
So, will this guy just if any jerk walks up and be like, "No, I'm the real king or queen or whatever," like,
I'm Spartacus.
yeah, like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I believe you.
I hope we can get in one more. I think we do maybe get one more, I think. I like this. God, he's a dumb character. He's like out of a different movie. What was that little like thing he did with his fingers there? It was weird. Oh, there it is!
Oh!
Yeah!
Yes.
Oh my god, this movie. I can't say I love it, but I do like it.
You know what? It has grown on me over the years. I dislike it less than I used to. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. It is. It's I think the Clone Wars, which I haven't gotten through just because I'm not a huge fan of the prequel world. But the Clone Wars is one of those things that arguably makes all of these films a little better.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Having watched all of them, I can say that that's definitely true.
I'm sad because I'm not really a big fan of the animation style. I constantly feel like I'm watching like a PlayStation 2 game or something.
No, that really is what it feels like.
I for some reason I watch like one episode at a time, and I always end up getting really bored with the animation style. Just wish it were a little more dynamic or live action.
Yeah, I kind of when I'm working on projects, I usually have something going on in the background. So that was how I watched the Clone Wars series.
That's a great way to watch it.
Yeah, so I could look up when there were things actually happening, but when it was just dialogue or things like that, I was kind of not looking at the screen, so I didn't have the opportunity to get bored with the visual style because I wasn't really looking at it most of the time.
We're finally starting to feel a little like a Star Wars movie.
I
Like,
know,
there's
like
going to
they're
be some
plotting
wars.
how to get in and make an attack happen, and like secret passageways and all that.
Yeah, this is the whole film should have been this.
Yeah.
I think it was trying to model after A New Hope, where the kind of big action scene doesn't happen until the end of the film. But it's a surprisingly actionless movie.
Oh, yeah, it really
outside
is.
of you got the pod race, the first Darth Maul encounter.
But even that was
that's
a minute.
That's like a minute.
Yeah.
And you've got like I guess the opening sort of invasion-y thing, which is also just like kind of broken up into minute chunks.
Yeah.
So really, you're looking at the pod race and the finale of the film.
Yep.
Whereas as the original, like A New Hope, kind of has, you've got the finale, you've got the Darth Vader fight, you have tension on the Death Star the entire time.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they could get caught and killed at any time. There's action sequences galore throughout that.
Yep. With even as far as the like trash
escaping.
compactor scene.
Yeah, trash compactor scene is probably one of the greatest action scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're just like, shit, they could die here. I remember the first time I ever saw it, I was like, they're gonna die here.
Has the wheel not been invented in this universe?
Well, they got hover everything. They don't need wheels.
Even then, like that little hologram thing was on some sort of like six-legged spider thing.
This right here was like the first thing of this movie anybody ever saw, because in the teaser, this was the first moment.
Which is a pretty cool
visual.
visual.
Cool visual. I went back and watched that teaser. There's a wheel. I went back and watched a teaser not that long ago after the Force Awakens teasers came out, and we've gotten so much better at cutting trailers nowadays. Like back in the day, it was just like, here's a scene, here's a scene, here's a scene, directed by, here's a scene, coming soon. Where nowadays, like they almost form, like they're almost better than the movie at times. To the point where I think a lot of times trailers nowadays let you down because the trailer is so good, and then you see the movie and you're like, this is a piece of shit. How did they do that? God, no wonder they have trailer awards now.
I feel like people have figured out how to cut a trailer so it can make any movie look good.
Yeah.
Like you just put that super low, like, wow.
Have you ever seen my
sound behind
maybe we'll put a link on YouTube, but I actually cut the Showgirls. I cut Showgirls to the Inception.
Wow.
I cut it to the Inception music, so it does actually have the
nice.
Whoever it makes you want to see the movie. I've had friends who've like never seen the movie be like, I want to watch Showgirls now. Like, it looks good. Like, are you sure it's bad? I'm like, oh no, it's terrible, but we should do a commentary on that.
Oh god,
it's amazing. Have you ever seen Showgirls?
Oh, you are in for a treat, sir.
Right.
It is no episode 1. Let me tell you.
I want to know,
it's like episode 1, but boobs every 2 seconds.
Was the Inception trailer the first one to use? Wow.
Yeah, it was a piece of music. I think that might have been even composed for the film, or was like sometimes they'll purchase the rights to a song and then just hold the rights, so you'll never see it. Like. You'll never hear that again in another movie. Although there's the Huntsman movie, the Snow White and the Huntsman movie, actually had a derivative version of it. It was very, very similar.
Oh, really?
It felt like.
But now every trailer it like has some sound that's
like
sort of like that.
Yeah. Right now we could use some bwongs right here.
No, this would be a perfect
scene
scene
in the action scene.
You know, build a little bit of tension here.
In the documentary, there's a really tragic moment in which where they have Anakins. They literally show you test footage of the different Anakins, about 3 of them, the 3 that they've narrowed it down to, and
like the kids,
the actors, and they're all sitting there, and you as a viewer get to see a little snippet of each screen test, and there is a clear winner that is not Jake Lloyd. You literally see it, and you have like then they put them all down, and like you can see them like talking about it, and like one person is like, you can tell they're kind of all leaning this one way, and then George Lucas is just sort of like, I like Jake Lloyd, and everyone's like, yeah, we do too. He's great. And you know, it's like you can literally watch them make the wrong decision. It's kind of an incredible thing to see in a movie, because nowadays you just don't get to see that all that often. Kudos to George Lucas for letting us kind of, it seems like something that, psychologically maybe he had to let us see the process to which this film got made and the decisions that were made. Now I'm very glad that he doesn't own Star Wars anymore, because I think it became a little bit of a psychological thing. Mm-hmm. I think it became something that like he needed to get rid of in order to kind of. I mean,
even I could even see, just for his own mental health, like letting go of that.
Yeah.
After something that he created something that became so beloved, and then tried to continue that and created something that was so despised,
deeply despised.
That's in essence, by making this film. In some ways, for a lot of people, he canceled out the best thing that he'd done in his lifetime. And I think from a psychological standpoint, letting go of that and being like, you know what? I created this thing that people love, and it's going to continue, but it's going to be out of my hands.
Characters saying things like, ouch time. Yeah.
Didn't he make Indiana Jones?
Yes.
Yeah. Indiana Jones
he produced
basically the same thing.
He produced the Indiana Jones, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was a very similar kind of experience, and it was just disappointing. Mm-hmm. I've actually I was initially really disappointed in that, and I've kind of grown to kind of like some of the aspects of it. I think it's a film that is not very good all the time, and I think that's because Steven Spielberg didn't really want to make it. But I do like the idea of somebody thinking they've kind of gotten old and realizing that it's not over yet just because you're old. And that movie, he begins sort of unmarried, no kid, and by the end he's married and has a kid, and is kind of starting life again. I think that's kind of cool.
Especially I feel like as far as the age.
Why don't they all shoot him? Sorry. Like, you have 20 people with guns. Shoot this fucker. Anyway, sorry. Momentary moment of anger.
But if you're talking in terms of the creators, I think that might be slightly autobiographical as well. Of like, here's someone who kind of feels like he's lost everything, and at this point in his life, okay, that was badass.
That's
right
badass.
There. That is a badass moment. Right
That's
there.
why people like Darth Maul.
Yep, right there.
The sound effects in this scene are just fucking phenomenal.
If only it had a.
Oh my god!
And I love that in the big final battle, which we haven't quite gotten to yet. The piece of music that's called "Duel of Fates." It's "Oh Fortuna" from Carmina Burana. Come on, it's not. It's basically a straight rip.
I always called it like a sort of coked out version of the finale of Return of the Jedi when Luke is fighting Darth. You know, he sort of succumbs to the dark side and fights Darth Vader, and they play this sort of, you know, epic choir. I felt like this was a coked out version of the same thing, because it's the same kind of music. It's just more intense, a little more brutal, a little more. Again, just like it's on fucking coke. Like, it's just sort of like, yeah, let's fucking have a choir going crazy. You know, where it works, but I love it. It was one of my favorite tracks back in, you know, the day. I like these little pull-ins on all the three characters very much for the trailer. And this is a pretty cool, like, idea, the set piece and stuff. I remember thinking that, like, there's no way that Darth Maul would be able to beat these two Jedi. Like, one of them's a full Jedi Knight, and one of them's, like, on his way, like, is almost a Jedi Knight. And here's this Darth Maul who's, like, kind of this young, like, Sith Lord, and he manages to kind of outsmart them. And I had a friend who's an even bigger Star Wars fan who was, like, you know, said that, you know, one of it is they're all classically trained. Darth Maul is not. And sucker punches work. You know, sucker punches confuse them, and they're not used to an unsort of civilized style of fighting. And this is where he kills people by accident, and it's funny. It wouldn't be funny if they weren't droids, though. If they were just people, it'd be like, holy shit. That's horrible.
Some guy's like trying to pass his dog tags or his watch off to his other droid brethren because he just got, you know, to give to his wife and his kid. He just got foot shot by Jar Jar Binks.
Fucking Jar Jar. Look, they put him in another helmet that makes him look like a 4-year-old again. Like, look at that. He looks like he's 4. I think he's supposed to be like 10. So, Alex, we're at the finale now. What do you think?
That's fair.
So wait, what the hell? I thought the kid was in like a cave or something.
No, he hid in a cockpit because he didn't think he'd get injured or he'd be safe in a cockpit, and then he accidentally took off now he's flying.
Where was he flying to?
He's autopilot. For some reason, there's like an autopilot that's taking him to the bad guys, which makes no sense. But,
let's autopilot this fighter into battle. That makes sense.
This feels like a sex comedy sort of breaking in sort of like moment. It's it's so goofy. It's like a Mel Brooks movie or something.
This feels like the old school Adam West Batman.
Yeah. There's something kind of weird about it.
Windows.
We're just looking out and be like, well, that's strange.
I was reminded of like Revenge of the Nerds and like the panty raid sequence where they use like some sort of Mission Impossible style stuff. But yeah. This fight is cool. The double lightsaber is a very effective, interesting tool.
At least from a visual and
At least from
choreography standpoint.
It doesn't like right here. It probably would just fall on him.
Right.
Like you got to be real careful when you fall with the. So you use a sucker punch there to kind of get out of the situation. Mm-hmm. He does throw a lot of sucker punches. The visuals here are really neat. They're kind of designed to look like Return of the Jedi again. Like this is a coked out version of Return of the Jedi.
Absolutely. Everything glows a little bit more.
Yeah.
And yeah.
This visual he hated. He still hates it. I think we could see him change it at some point. I don't know.
George Lucas, I assume.
Yeah, he being George. No, he being Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson just, I don't like this scene. Now he didn't think he conveyed that these beams were dangerous, which I think is actually a pretty fair. Like, all he does is have him kind of hit it once, and that's sort of it.
I mean, I always just read them as like force field separations. Like you just couldn't get through.
But why are they there? Like, think about it. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Of course. It's. I want like the Sigourney Weaver from Galaxy Quest to be like, why is this here? This is only here for like narrative purposes. Like it's only there to be difficult. Whistles.
Now, are those giant feathers on the creatures or just like part of the saddle decoration?
I feel like it's sort of like a harkening back to sort of Native American and putting things on. Although it does kind of look like maybe they're organic with them, but I feel like they are sort of meant to be a combination of different ethnicities and stereotypes and weren't meant to be negative, but kind of came off negative. Like the Ewoks were sort of right. I've heard sort of had that like sort of Vietnamese like it was meant to be like a parable for Vietnam War.
That's interesting.
And sort of have that sort of stereotyped accent to go with it. Their language I think is loosely Asian based. And
this guy's like the Forrest Gump of battles. Like he just like bounces on the things and like falls on the things and
look at that.
Yeah. Like,
there's too much of it. There's
like way too much of it. Jar Jar Binks is actually very Forrest Gump-esque.
It's the Abbott and Costello battalion.
I feel like it's going in with the coked out theory. It's like the Jurassic Park kids, like a coked out version of that. Because the Jurassic Park kids are the same thing. Like he's in the Jeep, he manages to survive the Jeep crash in Jurassic Park, and then he gets out of the Jeep, they fall down the tree, and then the Jeep lands on top of him and they survive. And then later on, they're climbing down the skeleton, and they fall, and the skeleton falls on them, and it misses him again. And like, there's constantly these like near miss things, and I think that's kind of what he was going for, is like a slapsticky.
I mean, it's the classic Buster Keaton thing where the like entire wall of a house falls down, and you happen to be standing right where the open window was, and it falls around you.
Yeah, you hit like one nail, and the whole wall falls down.
Yeah, it's that classic slapstick humor that.
Yeah. Which again, like, there's weird similarities to Mel Brooks movies. Because I'm thinking about like all the Mel Brooks movies, like how many like little moments there are like that. Young Frankenstein has is it Young Frankenstein? Yeah, Young Frankenstein has a bunch that are like that.
Which arguably some of the slapstick stuff for me. Because, we're watching this without the sound on, so you don't have all of the sound in the background.
You don't have the constant Jar Jar voice.
Right. A lot of the slapstick stuff is genuinely a lot more enjoyable when you don't hear Jar Jar talking.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's a little bit goofier.
It's entertaining, and it's it's goofy, but it's fun. It's like the Ewok scenes. Like it's like the them doing all the ridiculous traps and stuff like that.
Here we go. Shit's about to get real cray. Double cray. Sucker punch. And
sucker
Qui-Gon
punch
Jinn's
and
dead.
stab.
No! The only good character in the film just got killed. Well, that and Shmi Skywalker.
Yeah, Shmi Skywalker is pretty
cool. She was cool. Ooh, he's pissed. Oh, you should cut that fucking rat tail off now and just fight. Just cut that thing. Saber that fucker off. You are a Jedi Knight now. Time to cut Darth Maul in half and then have him come back later on the show in a kind of contrived way.
Yep. With like a robot spider bottom.
Yeah. What's interesting is that depending on like where you saw this film, he didn't split in half. In some versions he just falls.
Really?
And George Lucas wanted to make it definitive that he had died, so he added that being cut in half. But I have actually seen the version where he just falls.
Really?
But they wanted to make it clear that he was dead, and then people were still like, "No, we're bringing it back." Looks like she's pulling out dildos. Like, Queen, this is a dildo. You just handed me a dildo. She's like, oh shit, wrong drawer. She goes to the next one, opens it up, hands him the laser guns.
Dildos go on the right side. Laser guns go
This is the
left.
Queen's palace, after all. You never know.
She spends some time in these chambers all by herself, thinking about an 8-year-old boy. What?
Mm-hmm. Look at him. He's like a Rocky ready. He's like Rocky ready for this. He's got the eye of the tiger now.
Really are like just like part of a video game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe like
Absolutely.
the middle level, not too
Absolutely.
hard, but making you slow down a little bit.
Yeah, it's like when you're playing Mario and you're in the castle
Yeah,
and like there's like the
wait for
things
those
that fall
things.
down. Why does his lightsaber even work when he cuts it in half? And why doesn't he have 2 lightsabers now?
Yeah, that always threw me. I assumed that there were 2 separate emitter assemblies.
Yeah.
And it was cut slightly off center, and so the one got, hosed and the other one was still functional.
This is Jedi's fighting in a way we've never seen before, which again goes with the idea that it's a coked up version of like the same thing you've seen before, but like now it's like trained, skilled.
Oh yeah, I mean the fight choreography in this film compared to the original trilogies, it's far more visually exciting. Like you go and you watch Return of the Jedi, and the lightsaber fights they're pretty basic.
You get to the first movie. I mean, they're basically just throwing it around.
Oh yeah,
it's barely.
They're barely doing anything except
I always like that.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and going back to when everyone was highly skilled and trained, it kind of makes sense that the level of fighting would be so much higher than Obi-Wan, who hadn't even used his lightsaber in 30 years, and Darth Vader, who didn't have anyone to fight against.
More machine now than man. We didn't hit it. No, your 4-year-old did. This is pod racing. Yeah. Oh. He dies here.
The end.
Whoa,
Credits.
you did it. I'm surprised there wasn't a yippee there. All these people who just work for
Cowabunga.
like, you have to think these aren't necessarily all bad guys. They're just people who work for the Trade Federation.
Yeah, like the janitor subcontractors, like the guy with the mop, like, oh, son of a bitch.
We're fucking dying right
you
now.
You can keep your $6 an
There,
hour.
I think it's in what is it in Kevin Smith and Clerks, so they talk about all the contractors who were working on the Death Star when they blew it up, like how mean that would be.
Construction, especially the second Death
Second,
Star.
I'd say it's like no excuse.
Do you know how
like
many
plumbers and
construction
stuff.
workers died when they blew that thing up?
And this is how Obi-Wan gets his lightsaber. What? What are you doing? It's really funny is there's a scene in episode 3 where Obi-Wan is, right before he kills or sort of disables Anakin Skywalker, he says, I have the high ground, I'm gonna win. And here he is defeating the guy with the high ground.
Yep.
Or with the low ground, rather.
Right.
The guy has the high ground and he still manages to beat him. He can just force jump.
Yep.
Something they'll never use again.
Like
only
fast
use.
running. It's a one.
That's
It's a
right.
one-time
It's a
use
one-off.
power. It's a one-time use
It's
power.
like
You
Tony
get-
Stark and Iron Man 2. That
Yep.
thingy is a one-off.
Yep. You get to use that once in your life, and that's it. Seems a waste to have used that.
Oh,
fast
he touches
run
his
early on.
face really gingerly in kind of a weird way.
And call your mother, you damn hippie.
Cut that fucking rat tail. Cut it and grow an Amish beard. Oh, I'm dead.
It's like, I will, Qui-Gon. I will grow an Amish beard.
Liam Neeson has had a hell of a career.
You gotta hand it to him how he's managed
amazing.
to like transition into full-on badass action hero.
Mm-hmm. Though he said he's going to retire soon.
Yeah.
He said he's getting a little too old.
After Taken 7.
I don't know if they're gonna make any more. They're not really making any money anymore. They haven't been any good since the first one.
Yeah, that's why they haven't been making money.
But he's done a couple action films. He's kind of getting a little like worn out. He's been looking a little gaunt lately. Sparking some speculation that he's not all that well. But he's probably doing a movie or something, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Plus, sometimes actors just look different when you see them, like in photographs and stuff versus what you see. So, Liam Neeson, if you're listening, and I know you aren't, you're not. You have way more cooler things going on. But if you are listening, if there's like a cousin or like a nephew of Liam Neeson, tell him we wish him well.
Pass the word along.
Permanently Geek wishes
his
Liam
address
Neeson well.
so we can send him one of those edible arrangements.
Yeah, I would totally send Liam Neeson. We were at a Comic-Con recently, and there was a Liam Neeson, a signed Liam Neeson thing that you could win. It was like a door prize, and I wanted to win it so bad. I was like, God, I want to win this. And the person standing right behind me is the one who won. And then they were immediately talking about selling it. And I was like, oh, that would be sitting right behind us. Would be a signed Liam Neeson plaque. But we would definitely send him an edible arrangement. If there's any cousins or nephews or like anybody who knows Liam Neeson and wants us, maybe you don't even have to. You can give us your address and then just pass it on to him.
Just pass along the edible arrangement to Liam Neeson. Let him know it's from Permanently Geek.
Let us know what he likes. Does he like grapes? Does he like passion fruit? Is he a mango fan? I bet Liam Neeson's a mango fan.
We'll make sure there isn't too much cantaloupe in there. That's just filler.
Cantaloupe is the fucking worst.
Yeah, exactly. It's just filler fruit.
Oh, cannibal.
Well, that's an entirely different thing. We'll get you the cannibal edible arrangement.
I love this. They bring like a 10-year-old boy to watch the man be set on fire.
Set on fire, and they wonder
so
that he
morbid.
turns out to be a fucked up dude later in life.
He's weirdly not on fire, which is odd.
Jedi don't burn. Jedi fade away.
What's weird is here he doesn't have the rat tail, but then at the end of the movie he will have the rat tail. I shit you not, they sold the rat tail when this movie came out. You could buy it. It was like a young Jedi master kit, and it like came with a little lightsaber and like a rat tail and like maybe even the costume.
Is that like a thing? You have to have a rat?
No,
apparently it was like a marker.
Part of the whole thing. Like when
you
you're
were
in Jedi training, you have the rat tail and you cut it off when you become an actual Jedi.
When you were a Padawan learner.
Yep.
Which was destroyed. The Master of the Apprentice. You know what? I bet it was the Apprentice. Yeah, it was because
there's the Master. You notice how they just pulled the focus to that guy?
Well, I like the framing. That's actually probably the best frame in the whole movie because they have Obi-Wan looking like the Emperor and then panning over to see Palpatine, and you really get a sense of What's weird though is like most audiences, probably even children who hadn't necessarily seen the other ones, probably knew it already. Mm-hmm. And it ends with a celebration, just like the original.
Yep.
Which is yeah. See, he's got the haircut and the rat tail.
Just an itty bitty rat tail.
Music continues. That's what the text says.
It's always like those creatures. It always looks like someone chopped part of their
Jar
tail
Jar.
off.
Being Jar Jar one. It does. I was thinking the same thing.
It looks like their tails were docked.
What the fuck is that thing?
Is that an albino Yoda?
Albino Yoda.
Sunlight I must avoid. I must.
They're gonna give them a glowing ball. Could you imagine just like, what do I do with this?
It's one of those things you get at like
in the 90s. You could get glowing balls that had the electricity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pick them up at Spencer's.
You go to Spencer's. George Lucas ran down to Spencer's and got one. He's like, we
gotta
put everything 90s in this movie.
Yeah, there we go. Gotta fit this in.
I suppose one of the characters is wearing like Cosby sweaters or something. Too soon.
Yeah, they originally gave him Bart Simpson dolls.
But
eat my shorts. Oh my god. So there we are. That is Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace. 4 stars out of 5.
2 out of 10 would not bang.
2 out of 10 would not bang. Hot or not hot. Yeah, it's
It's a movie.
It has scenes that are good and scenes that are not good.
There are elements that are intriguing.
Ben Burt, a terrific sound designer.
Absolutely, Ben.
Absolutely.
We applaud
John
you.
Williams, great score.
Yep.
Thank you. Liam Neeson,
Badass.
deservedly getting top credit.
Yep.
Ewan McGregor is just okay. I think he gets better as the series goes on.
Yep.
I think he felt a little out of his element. Same with Natalie Portman.
Yep.
They don't have a lot to do in this movie.
It's true.
Jake Lloyd, get well. Pernilla August, fantastic. Frank Oz. Frank Oz feels a little bored in this movie.
Yeah.
Ian McDiarmid is pretty good. He's the guy who plays Palpatine.
Yep.
Ahmed Best. Kudos.
That's a great name.
That's Jar Jar.
Ahmed Best.
Ahmed Best. Kudos for taking Jar Jar with grace and appearing in many Adult Swim, animated Star Wars things. There's like a robot chicken where like Darth Vader is like, he is Darth Vader, and then like Jar Jar comes back as a ghost. It's one of the ghosts. He's like, "Yay, Annie, we're going to play together." That's great.
And it was actually Ahmed Best that voiced him for the robot chicken ones. That's great.
Ahmed Best, I think, has done a couple things with them.
That's good. That's good that he had a sense of humor about the character.
He didn't know. I mean, no, none of them knew, and it's good to be able to sort of, you either accept it and kind of enjoy that while people make fun of you or people get frustrated, like generally half the people who are going to make fun of it, like us, like I don't mind the character. I think he's fine. I think he's a little overused is the biggest problem. But like, if you accept that people generally kind of, they'll love to hate it. And if you're part of that group, you're going to enjoy the fans. If you kind of just get angry and defensive, you sort of lose. You sort of lose it. I know Jake Lloyd had said before that he hates this movie, like he hates that he was in it, and has a really hard time with it. And I'm not surprised because they didn't give him enough to do, and he's a character, and he's growing up, and so everybody's always making fun of him, and he's probably I'm sure it's led to a lot of like his sort of, I guess, dysfunction now.
I mean, it's the classic child actor thing too.
Yeah, it's tough being a child actor.
It's not that many that make it out in one piece.
I mean, even as well as like the Harry Potter kids, you still have Daniel Radcliffe going through alcohol abuse and having to overcome that, and that's a big obstacle to overcome. And I think he has, and he's done really well, and he's doing great. But it's really hard. Visual effects are fantastic in this movie. Production design, I think, is damn good. I think everything looks great. CG is generally pretty good. Occasionally, it looks a little 90s, but generally,
for the era it was pretty solid.
Yeah, look at that. There's the effects artist. Right?
Holy crap!
Yeah. But I still remember again the documentary. I think it was on like the DVD. It's probably on the Blu-ray. When they screen it for like the producers and stuff, and like when it is over, they show everyone's reaction, which is crazy because everyone doesn't like it, and they're all like either Rick McCallum or whatever, who's the producer, is just sort of like, it doesn't work. That's great. And there's this whole like they kind of like talk, and they kind of almost get in a fight about it, like how are they gonna fix it, what are they gonna do, and George is like, we'll do some reshoots, we'll fix some things here and there, I think that this is a film that maybe he didn't want to make. He probably made the best movie that somebody could make for somebody who didn't necessarily want to make the movie. But I think he took it personal after it came out, and because he doesn't really fix the problems in any of the movies, but I guess he kind of just lets it be a little more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Alex,
like, at what point did the producers, like, and the actors and stuff, like, they had to have gone into this thinking, like, this is gonna be amazing, and like you said, at the end of like the screening, there's like,
yeah,
like
there's a collective sigh.
Like, at what point did they go, I don't know, man, like anytime I've worked on something, there's always been a point where it's like, wow,
we're fucking up.
Yeah. Like, if you like, you
there's
realize
like the point of no
it,
return.
You
You're
realize
like, we're making
it,
something
and then
that's not gonna work.
You're like, I don't know, man. And then like, or like like man, this is gonna be fantastic. Like, I just wish I could have been there to like watch that realization of one of the actors who's just like,
Yeah.
At that point, it's too late.
It's too late. Like, how are you gonna? I mean, you've spent months, millions of dollars. Like, it happens to a lot of films. Like a shocking number of films, you'd be blown away. Like, how many movies are bad not because people didn't care, but because people maybe cared about the wrong moments. And you get a movie that just doesn't work for whatever reason. And I think this one works, but it is damn close to almost a misfire. Breathing is probably Darth Vader's breathing now. We have it muted, folks, so we don't know. The movie's sound is a complete mystery to us, especially Alex, who's never seen it.
So, Alex, not having seen it before, final impressions.
I mean, like, it seems like if you would have just like read the script or like read the outline and be like, oh man, this is gonna be really cool, or it's gonna be like, explosions and battles and robots and like all of the things that I like, but then it's like it all comes together. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not sure exactly what happened. Like, I understand it's setting up for like the real story with like the Emperor and all that stuff.
Basically, but, like, Palpatine created this situation in order to position himself to become like the chancellor of like the entire Senate.
Yeah.
Which gives him an unprecedented amount of power. No one knows he's a Sith Lord, and so he is really the Phantom Menace. And there's a big debate about who the Phantom Menace is. I've always thought it was him because he's the one who is manipulating every single aspect of this movie, and you don't even know it. I'm sure if you're a little kid and you watch this, and if you can understand it, getting to the third film when that is revealed, you're probably like, oh, kid would be like, oh, darn it. Like, that's not good. Oh my goodness. But I for me, that's always what I thought the Phantom Menace sort of represented, was the Sith, the sort of Sith sweeping into politics and realizing you don't destroy the Jedi with strength. You destroy them you play chess with them, basically.
And destroy them from within and let them screw themselves over.
And like maybe it just has to like expand out through the next few movies, but like that would be a really like just to compress that down, the political aspect of it would be a really interesting movie. Or like, here's 2 hours of basically things fighting other things would be a really interesting movie. Like it's my same problem with The Walking Dead. It's like I would if there was a 45-minute show once a week of people killing zombies and that was it, I would watch the crap out of that.
Yeah, Walking Dead and Star Wars needs to be a lot like Dragon Ball Z or one of those, where like there's like on like a lot of those anime shows have like I think it's Dragon Ball Z, where like you go about 3 episodes with like character development, and then there's like 1 episode is just fucking fight. The entire episode is fight.
In some ways, like what was done with the Kill Bill movies, where the first one is nothing but action the whole time.
Yeah.
And the second film, it's all exposition and character development with one final,
I've always called that sort of the Kill Bill 1 is the sort of death of flashy Tarantino, and Kill Bill 2 is the birth of like this refined version of him, where there still has flash, but it's really character centric and really rich dialogue, and every film he's made ever since has sort of like had that kind of tone. Particularly like Django and Inglourious Bastards, even Death Proof to some extent, although Death Proof's probably it's easily his worst film.
Right. I'd put that.
And it's still fucking great
compared to most films. It's phenomenal. In the stack of Tarantino films, it's at the bottom. But that's that's
the bottom is still George Lucas's top.
as far as a film goes, yes.
Yeah, I mean George Lucas is an absolutely brilliant innovator, and really at times is a really great filmmaker, and he pushes the boundary of visual effects. He pushes the boundary of what we can do on screen in a way that is, for somebody who loves film, somebody who wants to make movies, somebody who's long, who's written stuff, and like, George Lucas is somebody that like I think about every time I go to write a story. I want to push the envelope in the same way that he did.
So was he like pushing the technological envelope for like mostly with visual effects, or was he actually pushing like the storytelling mechanisms?
One could even argue
big innovation.
I think the innovation here is visual effects. I do think he's trying to play with the narrative in a way, like by making it more. There was a comic book actually recently came out that was based on his original script for Star Wars, like the very, very original, which is much different. And it has a lot of the elements you see here. So this is a story. I think the Phantom Menace is a story he has wanted to tell since before Star Wars was ever born. And now that he had the ability to tell that story, he told it.
I mean, I also, if you're talking about innovations, just from the fact that in making his films, he started with number 4 in the series. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement from the beginning. It's like, all right, so I'm making this trilogy, but this is actually starting at the 4th in the series.
Yeah, which
like,
was added for the re-release.
Oh, really?
The original film, Star Wars, did not have the episode in front of it.
Really?
That was a decision made after when they were gonna. I think they re-released it to promote Empire Strikes Back. I do like with the Force Awakens now that they've actually eliminated the episodes from the title.
Oh, really?
Because you almost can't say Star Wars Episode 1. You have to say the whole fucking title. It's Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Whereas back in the day, it was Star Wars, it was Empire Strikes Back, it was Return of the Jedi. They are now putting an emphasis on The Force Awakens is the title of the movie.
Gotcha.
Which is cool. And that seems like that's going to be that way from now on. But yeah, I think this was a story he wanted to tell. I think he told it. I think it hurt that people didn't like it. But I also think it's a little, like, particularly now, it's really obvious where it's very 90s, and like where is it like Star Trek The Next Generation being a massive influence on him this time.
Absolutely.
And I'd venture to say it's almost a film that he waited too long to make. He maybe should have made it in the late 80s, not the late 90s. I think he would have had a little more success and probably a better chance at kind of a better chance at not like disappointing fans, because it wouldn't have been as long. This was a movie. This was a set up to fail kind of movie. It was set up to fail, and it was a hit, but it definitely it really stunk that it came out like just a month after The Matrix. And like, which is a story that borrows from Star Wars quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
And was so like mind-blowing and innovative in its own way, and in maybe a less nuanced way, but in a more intriguing way in some ways, because it was, it brought bullet time effects and all this like new stuff that you had never seen before. And it really kind of it sort of it was a bit of a just a really odd moment in cinema history to have this film,
this phenomenal thing in science fiction and fantasy that because The Matrix was it was a science fiction film, but it was also very much in that like fantasy story about discovering that you are someone who is extraordinary and has special powers, which is exactly what the original Star Wars was. It's about, being this ordinary guy and discovering that there's so much more to the world that you knew about, and you have special powers without getting too deep into the nuances. It's like humans are batteries. You're, you're being fed this, this fake world inside your mind and all of this.
Yeah.
But it was much more as opposed to the hard science fiction that we were talking about. With
sometimes the less you explain,
right,
the better it actually works on screen.
Like I feel like The Matrix explained things to about the level that the original Star Wars movies did, as opposed to trying to get to science-y with its science fiction.
And I would argue that the filmmakers fell into the same trap that George Lucas did. With the sequels.
Second and third, absolutely.
The sequels play just like the prequels. It's a weird thing.
Yep.
Like they had, I remember when it came out. When the first film came out, I was like, they should not make any sequels to The Matrix. It's perfect. You don't need anything else. It is an open and closed story. The story is not about taking over the machines. The story is about a man opening his mind.
Yep.
That is the story.
Yep.
And I like some of the philosophy that spills into the sequels, but yeah, it's a lot like the prequels.
And I mean, very
derivative, very talky.
Yep.
A lot of just like callbacks to the original film,
Yep.
and it just ends up being something else. But it's I was reminded of when Terminator Salvation and Star Trek, the 2009 J.J. Abrams film, opened within a month of each other. People trashed the hell out of Terminator Salvation and loved Star Trek. And I remember thinking, like, it's one of those cases where one movie just sort of set the other one up to fail.
Yep.
I think, I don't think Terminator Salvation is a flawless film, but I do think that it probably would have done a little bit better had it opened before Star Trek.
Right. When people hadn't just seen this phenomenal science fiction film that, became really in its own way genre defining and took this classic franchise and put it back in people's minds in a really positive way.
Mm-hmm. Same thing happened with E.T. and The Thing. The same summer.
Oh,
they
really?
opened within I think a couple weeks of each other, and everybody loves E.T. And then here's this other movie about an evil alien, and no one wanted to see it. No one was interested in that because it was like, no, E.T.'s awesome. E.T.'s are awesome. Aliens are great.
Like, I don't want to hear about bad aliens. I like aliens. Aliens are cute.
Had Sigourney Weaver's Aliens come out that same summer, it probably wouldn't have done as well because people sometimes particularly optimistic movies can really fuck up another movie.
I think they should do another E.T. movie from the point of view of like the E.T.s that come and rescue like the one that got stranded on Earth. Like, is he calling us from like toys and like a photograph? And like,
there are book sequels.
Really?
I have one of the the book sequel. It was written like about 10 years ago. There was a book sequel that is like mostly from their perspective.
It's like, do we gotta go get
like son of a bitch? You have any idea how much interstellar gas costs? It's gonna cost us 25 Caligams.
Buddy system. We told you the buddy system. Like, do they ever explain why E.T. got left behind?
He was just exploring.
He didn't crash?
He's literally, it's kind of like Home Alone in a way in that like he's a child. He's like a child, and so he's just being a child.
The
parents, he's supposed to be kind of a child, and his parents they leave.
What?
They try to find him, and then they have to go because there's like people looking, like government people looking for them, and they need to leave. They're actually like they're a plant species, and they're interested in our plants, in our plant life.
Does this come from the movie, or you
Yeah.
just made? Mine must not watch the same.
If
movie.
you look inside the ship, there's like plants all over the ship. And then if you do the ride, which I think is now closed at Universal, but the ride at Universal takes you to their world, and it's just plants everywhere. They're a plant species, and they themselves evolved from plants. Which is why they're so connected to the flowers in the movie, like why the flowers die when E.T. like gets sick and stuff. Yeah. Star Wars Episode I. Commentary. That was like 10 minutes ago we were talking about Star Wars. We should probably close this up for the night.
I think it's about time to wrap this one up.
one down a bit.
No, I'm gonna leave it in. I'm gonna leave it all in. People love it. Well, maybe they don't. We'll find out.
People
you guys,
hate it. People
you
love
guys
it.
might be like,
They gotta deal with it. If they felt like hitting stop 10 minutes ago, that was their prerogative. But
if you like this commentary, be sure to subscribe to it. Throughout November and December, we're going to be putting out Star Wars commentaries. We're hoping to do all of the films and a few little extras. Including the EWOK films and the lovely, perfect as it is, the ugly child of the Star Wars series, the Star Wars Holiday Special. We're hopefully going to be putting those out over the next, hopefully in the next couple months. You'll get to see those, and we'll also be putting up some Play It, Smash It, and a few other things. So be sure to check those out. I am your host of Commentary Time, Randy. You can find me on Twitter at rlschaeferwrites, on permanentlygeek.com and rlschaefer.com. Michael?
I'm Michael McFarland, writer, rocker, biker, geek. You can find me at michaelmcfarlandmusic.com, and you can find all of the other stuff, Facebook, Twitter, all of that you can find from there. It's the easiest place to go.
Boom.
And I'm Alex, and I don't use computers.
Don't you work in computers?
No.
I don't know what you do. You're a data transponder. I don't know what you do. That's on Friends. That's what Chandler does. Yeah. I didn't know whether you knew that, but that's cool that you know that reference. I used to call my brother-in-law. He's a data transponder because I could never figure out what my brother-in-law does. He's explained to me multiple times, and I actually met someone once who knew what he did, and I was like, you know what my brother-in-law does. He's a data transponder. But yeah. So you have a Twitter account.
Simulalex.
Spell that out.
SIMULALEX.
Boom.
I follow him. He doesn't post anything, but you should follow him too.
Yeah, he'll post if you start adding him. Maybe he'll have to tweet. Tweeting it.
I'm good at the tweetings. If you want to hear some high quality tweetings, follow at Simulalex.
He tweets real good. All right, folks. We'll see you hopefully on Star Wars Episode VII,
Yes,
Attack of the Clones. And if we don't see you, it's because you didn't like us, and I'm sorry.
Oh.
But, whatever.
Deal with it.
Not everybody in the world is going to like everybody,
If everybody liked the same things, the world would be a pretty boring place. So,
Or it'd be really awesome. Depends on what things.
Depends on what things we all like.
What?
Nazism! We all love Nazism!
My God! You went dark on that.
I was going with pizza. Good lord, dude.
I was like thinking like Ninja Turtles. We're all like Ninja Turtles. Cool.
Well, I guess we all have our own utopias.
I was going for the negative, but there's always that look at
Well,
things.
it just no longer smells like gravy in here. It smells a little bit like pizza. So.
Or racism.
Oh my God. Well, on that note, folks out there in internet land, we will catch you on the next commentary. Take care.
Thanks for stopping by.
It's the second time you've done that.
It's my signature sign off.
It's a signature
Don't be
sign off.
hating.
I wish Tommy Wiseau had a goodbye that was official, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
So instead, I will just say, good journey. That's from Masters of the Universe. For anybody who knows. The movie. We'll do a commentary on that at some point.